I see a couple Thomas Parkers and one of those Linda.
Good looking one is right here. One Thomas Parker is actually IT.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's her, but IT is signed in as me as well. Or that may be because I see IT, Jose's name is on there now. So that may be a mistake.
See, John is Thomas. Linda, are you on?
Everybody wants to be signed in as Thomas until it's budget season. Then there's only one.
Right.
Sound check. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Lisa.
We can hear
All
you.
right, thanks.
I'm in.
Okay. All right, I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting of the Board of Directors of the School District for the City of Allentown for today, August 27th, 2020. There was an executive session held prior to this meeting, and an executive session was held on Friday, August 21st, 2020, to discuss legal and personnel and confidential matters. We will now have the roll call. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Brace,
Here.
Ms. Conover,
Present.
Ms. Harris,
Oh, she walked out of the room.
oh, I'll come back to Ms. Harris. Ms. Johnson Watts,
Here.
Ms. Matheson,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Thiel,
Here.
Ms. Wilt,
Here.
Ms. Vega.
Here.
Just waiting on Ms. Harris.
I see ya. Sorry, Ms. Harris, I didn't realize you had walked out of the room, so Ms. Ramos is doing roll call.
Ms. Harris, okay. We're all here.
Okay, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
I didn't
God,
want you to go out.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. It's that time of the year where we have to say welcome back to our teachers, paras, custodians, food service, all the staff, secretaries, everybody in the school. So welcome back to everybody. I hope that it's a wonderful year. Teachers report next week and students start back in 2 weeks. I would also like to say thank you to Mr. Delgado and all the Rob staff, as well as Mr. Schlegel and Ms. Saba and all the Brigadier General Anna Mae Hayes staff for opening your schools up for the board members to be able to have tours of the 2 buildings. We went on the 2-building tour, and I encourage board members, if you would like to see the other buildings, to reach out. I can help you schedule them, or Mr. Parker, to see all of our buildings so that you see what the children are in. I know everybody's been working hard over the summer to get them ready for when the kids can finally return back to school. So thank you again for opening the doors and being with us late into the evening so we could really see our buildings. Mr. Parker, do you have any remarks?
Yes, I will be a bit brief because I'm going to tag in someone with a very special announcement. I am absolutely excited as we get ready for this return to school. Our students, our families, there's a buzz in the air with our staff. Everybody's ready for school. We are absolutely, not happy that we have to do it in this virtual environment, but everybody is ready to go back to school. Maybe a few high schoolers that aren't excited because they want to extend summer, but everybody's excited to go back to school. So I want to thank everyone who's had a part in preparing this, from our internal staff that we always thank, our central office team, our teachers, our principals, our parapros, our custodians, our food service. Every single one of them have been absolutely great. But I'll extend an extra thank you to our community. So we have a lot of community partners who are consistently working, talking, and engaging with us, because we now know that education and schooling is not what it was last year, and it may never return. The community is much more engaged and involved with education, and the community in Allentown has been spectacular. From people who are taking care of children in daycare during the day and working with us to ensure that we have the materials, resources, and food that kids need, to those that are just reaching out to ask how we can support, be it financial or in kind. I want to extend a thank you to our community because they've been dynamic. And now I want to do a special announcement, and Mr. Sang, our new executive director of middle schools, is on board. And he's going to give a little bit of detail about, again, this is a pet project of mine. When we began having the conversation about assuring students a career and college ready, starting at the middle school level, I think that started as a vision of this, and it wasn't a vision, it was an expectation and a mandate from this board of directors that we transform the middle school experience and ensure that our students are college and career ready, starting early at that level. And we've taken a few steps with our middle school transformation. And today we take another step with something that is impactful for a number of students, but sends a strong message to our students, to our families, and to our community about what this board values and mandates in terms of meeting the needs of kids. We are launching our middle school version of our early college, where we'll have, I think the number is now about 40 students that are in middle school in the Allentown School District that will be enrolled in college courses at L-Tri-C, we have also 8th grade students enrolled in a college course with loads of support to ensure that they can be successful. But what more says be prepared and be ready for college and career than having the opportunity as an 8th grader to put a college course under your belt. I've goosebumps right now, excited about this opportunity that will be available for students at all 4 of our middle schools. Mr. Sang, if I didn't say everything.
I mean, you pretty much did. You kept saying you're going to turn it over to me, and then you spilled all the beans. But
I'm excited.
It is exciting. It is your baby. I'm excited to let you know that in partnership with L-Tri-C, that ASD is extending our early college, / dual enrollment programming to include a middle school cohort. Our students will be taking a college entry-level history course during the fall semester taught by an L-Tri-C professor. Our students will be supported not only by L-Tri-C, but their homeschool social studies teacher, guidance counselor, AP principal, and other support staff. We're so excited to have 40 middle school students with the opportunity to earn 3 college credits this fall.
So when they ask what's happening at Allentown and why our kids are excelling, make sure they tell the story. This board set the expectation 4 years ago when I came that we had better get it together and make sure that we're providing a wealth of opportunities and experiences for our kids. Our middle school transformation is rolling, and here is another example of 40 kids having the opportunity in 8th grade to walk into high school already having a college course under their belt. Absolutely exciting. And we're looking forward to seeing great things from those students and hearing some feedback from their families about the experience.
Wonderful news. Thank you. At this time, if there's anyone from the public who would like to speak on agenda items, now is the time to raise your hand. There is a time at the end of the meeting as well where you can speak on non-agenda items. So if anybody wants to speak, I'll give a couple minutes for hands to, or a minute or two for hands to go up, and we'll let you in. Kendall H, if somebody can let Kendall over. Kendall, if you can state your name and address for the record, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kendall Herzog. I live at 539 Mohawk Street in Allentown, and I'm an incoming freshman at Zero. They can't see.
Okay,
And
you can start.
I'd like to share my thoughts. So you are the adults that have to make these decisions, but I would like to tell you this from a student's perspective, since I'm being affected by these decisions. I was stuck in my house for 4 months, just like every other kid in every district. And now I have a chance to go back to school, and Allentown decided to go all virtual, which you're looking out for our safety. So thank you for that. But I'm also signed up for LCTI, which I was really excited for. And then Allentown says that I can't go, but every other district is sending students to LCTI, whether they're virtual or not. So I don't understand why it's safe for them, but not me. And now I have to sit at home and watch kids that would be in my exact same class do these cool activities in the actual classroom, but I can't. And virtual learning is nowhere near the same as actual learning in class, and it's just not fair. So please let me go to LCTI. If I can't be in Deer, at least let me go to LCTI. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall. I don't see any other hands raised right now. Oh, there we go. Amy H.
Hi, this is Amy Herzog, and I live at 539 Mohawk Street, Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I would like to speak to the board.
Okay, you may start.
I am the parent of an incoming 9th grader at Deeruff. She's also signed up for LCTI. I learned on this past Friday that LCTI is open and has been planning on being open on a hybrid schedule. And I was so grateful that my daughter will be able to go in person to LCTI to do that needed hands-on learning for that kind of education. However, I was incorrect in thinking that. I found out that while the 8 other districts are sending kids to LCTI, whether they're open or not, Allentown will not allow Allentown kids to go to LCTI. And I would like to ask the administration and the board to really look at this and consider it, because in the past board meetings, I don't think this has been discussed, and that LCTI parents and students have really been talked to specifically about this. I'm fully aware that Allentown schools are going to be virtual, as we have all known that for a while. And Allentown doesn't have the same facilities and resources and has all different kinds of issues they have to deal with to deem their building safe. But LCTI has had their opening plan and safety guidelines approved by the PDE, and it has been on their website. It was updated on July 31st and continues to be updated. They have deemed it safe to attend on a hybrid basis and have followed all the requested guidelines. East Penn and Salisbury and Southern Lehigh recently went fully virtual for secondary and are still allowing and sending kids to LCTI if their parents choose to let them go. East Penn also sent out a separate parent survey to the LCTI families, and I feel like Allentown parents should have had the same communication. LCTI is its own entity and have their own resources, and I don't think that their plan should be canceled out because Allentown's plan is not ready. I have asked if I can transport my child myself to LCTI, but I was told Allentown won't allow me to do that. The kids in Allentown are already at a disadvantage of what other kids get in other districts. This is a phenomenal resource for them, and they should have the chance to use it just as the other kids go. At least let the parents make that decision. Allentown has a lot of full-time LCI students too, called the CAP program, where they attend LCTI all day. And these kids will also not be able to even go those 2 days. These labs require the hands-on training. You can't do auto mechanics and cosmetology, etc., on a computer, because who's going to want to hire people that learn those things on a computer? So please do this for the Allentown kids and reassess and really look at this plan and let these kids go to the tech school. And thank you for being there for the kids. I understand these are all incredibly hard decisions you're making, and I really hope you'll consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I don't see any other hands up. So we'll move on to the information updates. The Allentown Human Relations Commission, Ms. Vega, is there an update?
No update at this time. We were having technical issues getting on and making it public at the last meeting.
Okay. The Allentown Public Library, Ms. Harris.
Just want to let you know that the hours of the Allentown Library are going to be open from Monday, Tuesday, from 12 noon to 8 p.m. Wednesday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. And we did meals for children up to age 18 up until August 21st. And we just want to let you know that it is going to be open, especially during our time our virtual learning, that is also a resource to use for parents and children.
All right, thank you very much. The Allentown Recreation Commission, Ms. Harris or Ms. Wilt?
There is no report at this time.
Okay. The Allentown School District Foundation, Ms. Wilt or Mr. Thiel?
There's no report at this time.
Okay. Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit, Ms. Conover?
There's no report at this time.
Okay. LCTI, Ms. Conover, Ms. Matheson, or Ms. Johnson-Watts?
Hi. LCTI reconvened on last night at their regularly scheduled monthly board meeting. There are no monthly board meetings in the month of July. They did a presentation on their rollout for what will happen in terms of the new format for education under COVID. They explained briefly how the adult education went, and modifications are being made for the full access, not in terms of everyday access, but in terms of the completion of the reopening process. One of the things that was great about the presentation is that it was very clear that there is going to be constant reevaluation of everything that is underway. Two key questions for them. One was, if a student receives a LCTI issued computer, do they need any other computer to do their ASD schoolwork? They do not. They are able to use the LCTI issued computer to complete ASD work as well, because there will be access there. They've also set up a single sign-in option to try to simplify the process as much as possible. And their help desk is also going to involve information that pertains to ASD as well. I'm sure there's more information to be provided later on, but I just wanted to give that highlight, and also that they did mention, when asked, were there any students that did not get their first choice? And they said that every student in ASD received their first choice for their courses. So we're looking forward to hearing more and seeing how that progresses.
Sorry, my computer froze. Were you done, Ms. Johnson-Watts?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Ms. Conover, I saw your hand was up. You have to unmute.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask Ms. Cheryl Johnson-Watts? I'm on that committee and I was not in that meeting yesterday. Can I ask her?
Yep, you could go ahead.
Okay. So Ms. Johnson-Watts, if you can you speak to what that ongoing evaluation means? Is there a possibility that if in fact, or was it discussed that LCTI's plan that they have in place, if it didn't work, if the students go back to being virtual? Or they didn't speak to it or not?
They didn't speak to that. What they spoke to are the different things that are being put in place for constant disinfection. They also spoke to the fact that every student that is in the virtual every student that's in the hybrid platform ultimately will be there on 2 half days. And then in addition to that, the whole concept of classroom would be asynchronous, meaning that it will be at the pace and schedule of the student, versus synchronous, meaning that you have to be present at a specific time with the teacher, until all of the different concerns are thoroughly evaluated and worked out. So the overall what could happen if, that's an ongoing discussion.
And one more question. Did they speak to what the end result was when we all shut down in March? What happened to our ASD students? Did they went virtual, and did they make it, or was it a problem? Did they speak to that at all?
That wasn't discussed at this meeting. I don't have that answer at hand, but that's something that perhaps we can revisit.
Thank you very much, Ms. Watts.
Ms. Matheson,
Audrey,
did
do
you?
you recall? Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Say that again, sir.
I was just going to ask if you had anything to add.
No, we're good.
Okay. Then it's the Safety Task Force, Ms. Conover or Ms. Harris.
I turn that over to Tiffany Polk to give the update.
Okay.
Ms. Polak, is she in the room?
Yes, can you hear me?
Would you mind assisting us, because neither one of us was at that meeting, but I'm sure it was intense. Are you in a position to give an update? If you have, if not, Mr. Falco?
Sure. We had our ASD safety survey go out this week to our staff, students, families, and the community. It went out on our district website, so I'm encouraging everyone to go there and fill out the survey. And we're also continuing to work on a process to include additional stakeholders at our safety task force meetings at each level.
Thank you very much, Ms. Polak.
You're welcome.
All right, that concludes the information updates. Next on the agenda is the Secretary and Treasurer's report. May I have a motion for the approval of the Secretary and Treasurer's report?
So moved.
Mr. Thiel, second by
I'll second.
Ms. Wilt. Madam Secretary, or is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
No.
Ms. Harris,
No.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
No.
Ms. Wilt, yes. 6-3 passes.
Okay. Next is the Superintendent's report. Mr. Parker, you have a presentation to do first.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. As we prepare for our opening of schools, we wanted to, again, as we have in every meeting, take the opportunity to bring you an update on our preparations for the next school year. We know that this is new and different for everyone involved, and the team at Allentown School District has been hard at work preparing to ensure that our students have a high quality learning experience. So I am going to ask Dr. Brown, who is leading the charge, to tap in, and she will lead us through a presentation of our updated back to school planning with a special focus on supporting our students with IEPs. Dr. Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Parker. May I have permission to share my screen so that I can get the PowerPoint up? While we're waiting to transition into the PowerPoint, I'd like to remind our community, our partners, our school board of directors, our family survey remains open on our website. So any families that have not completed that survey, as is the case twice a month, we encourage you to go to our website and complete that survey so that we're able to keep abreast of your preferences. We have the opportunity for families to identify what type of student that they have, whether it's a student with an IEP, an English learner student, or a student participating in any of our programs such as early college dual enrollment or LCTI. Additionally, on our website, and we'll have our communications director manager share this as well. Each update that we provide to our community, the PowerPoint is visible and accessible from our website. So you will be able to follow them from the moment that we started the planning up until now as we continue to tweak and finalize things. And so let me move into presentation format. Let me see here. I need to share my screen. Please. Is my screen visible for everyone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as we start each and every one of our updates to our community and our board of directors, we remind you that all of our work has always been guided by 5 key principles. First and foremost, health and safety. Secondly, flexibility. Third, family engagement. Fourth, but certainly most critical, high quality instruction. All of that revolving around constant communication. And as we move through this presentation, it's exciting to share how much our team has shifted from linear communication to bona fide outreach, creating meaningful two-way dialogue opportunities for our families, not just to complete a survey, but to participate in live parental sessions. And you'll hear more about that. But we wanted to start here because, again, all of these updates and all of the changes are fluid and coming through each and every day. Most recently, the State Department of Education has developed a dashboard for school districts to use, in addition to the supplemental guidance that the state has put out to inform school districts' health and safety plans as well. And so Allentown is right in line in including that revised information in our plan as we move forward. This is a screenshot of the dashboard, but what I'd like to share here is these indicators. These are the public health indicators that we've spoken to our stakeholder groups before, and we've even had our county health department director on to share some of these key data points prior to the development of this site. So that's one area that we're very proud that our team was very forward thinking and very proactive in looking at these public health indicators. Now the state has moved into a position where they're able to support us with a user-friendly tool. And if you go to the link for our families and our board of directors, you're able to see within a 7-day window duration what the levels of confirmed cases are, what the incidence rates are per 100,000. You're able to go on and click in to see what districts are in what area and what the levels of community spread are. So we just wanted to highlight this as another one of those informational points that are informing our discussions and our decisions as we move forward. In this update, you will hear about our staffing and professional development progress. Again, that outreach and support that we are working so diligently to provide for our staff and our families. We have some highlights in a partnership with our Allentown Public Library, new updates to our parent university, technology, and then again, as Mr. Parker said, the emphasis will be on our special education plan and how we and our team has worked very diligently to provide a robust special ed virtual campus program. First and foremost, as we speak to staffing, with the district moving into the virtual instructional model for the first quarter, we wanted to gauge where our staff was again, and we'll remind everyone that we disseminated a staff survey back in the end of June. Well, we went back out to our staff to ask 2 main questions. Can you do your job virtually? Out of the 2,400 staff members that we have, 1,170 responded. And you can see the breakdown here. The majority of our staff can do their job virtually. What we wanted to follow up with was, what is your preference in terms of teleworking and reporting to our building? Again, going back to that key, one of the key principles that's driving our work, health and safety. And the other survey data that we shared here with our staff and our families being concerned with health and safety, we want to keep making sure that we give our critical stakeholder groups an opportunity to be in conversation with us about their comfort levels. And so here, the majority of the responses, folks responded that they had a preference to telework if their job could be done virtually. And so it's important to note that out of the 700, well, let me go back. It's important to note first, out of the 1,170 responses, approximately 830 were of teachers. The other responses were spread among our other employee groups, custodians, security, paraprofessionals, food services. The survey was extended to each and every staff member within the district. Within the teleworking preferred option, We had approximately 584 teachers that responded as that being a preference. And within the reporting to the building option, approximately 267 teachers responded that they are ready and ready to report to their building. We'll continue to give you our latest update on professional development. We shared some introductory information with you last time we were before you. The work continues. Our instructional leaders, between the dates of August 14th and August 25th, we had more than 40 of our instructional leaders, which include our principals and assistant principals, participate in any number or all of the trainings that are listed below. We had approximately 350 plus teachers participate in that period of time in the same types of offerings for professional development. And then we began to see more of our special ed specific staff move into their training modules as well. So we wanted to share that and let folks know that we are absolutely busy here building capacity and preparing our staff to take on this new normal, if you will. Now, adding to that, when we were here during our Ed Committee meeting, we shared that we were going to pay particular attention to outreach and support for our families. So here we'll share that we've had more than 60 families represented in any number of trainings and supports that we've begun to offer. So that includes supports within our special ed programming, which you'll hear a little bit more about later, student services, and also our district parent working group that helps inform much of the information you'll see on our parent university. Our community organizations, we have 84 plus organizations that we are engaged in authentic partnership with. That means sharing our marketing, not our marketing, but our informational materials with them, getting them in their hands, our posters, our postcards with our QR codes that they can share with our families when they come to their child care centers or their organizations, and be able to access information immediately on what our virtual campus looks like and how and what they need to be prepared for to support their families. So this community organization piece includes not only child care centers throughout the city, but again, faith-based organizations, neighborhood organizations, and we continue to go back and add to the table and make sure that we're bringing our entire community along in this effort. One of the partnerships and community organizations that we're highlighting this evening is the Allentown Public Library. There are two strands of work that we're trying to move forward. One is library access for all during the closure of this of our opening of schools. While we're opening our virtual campus, we still want our students to be able to have access to the library. And so how we're doing this is we've coordinated and we've gotten generic student information to the library so that a student will receive a library card, much like you receive a generic promotional offer in the mail where it will say what will be addressed to resident and it will have your address. So these library cards will be produced and sent to our students, and it will say fourth grade student, have their address, and the age appropriate library card will be in the envelope and ready for that student to use. And we have a snapshot of a public relations piece, if you will, produced by the library, where our students will have this additional support as they're working through this virtual campus environment. So we definitely wanted to highlight that. The second strand of work that's still in the making is we're partnering with the library to see how we can provide our students with additional novels outside of just their regular library offerings, but novels that are attached and embedded in our core curriculum, primarily our ELA curriculum. And so stay tuned for that, cross your fingers, but right now we're very happy to announce that we will be providing library cards, direct mail to all of our students. In terms of our parent university, I'm going to share some updates. We've worked very hard, our communications department, to get grade level schedules uploaded, as well as programmatic schedules, so that as our parents are looking for information, they can go to our website. I may have to stop sharing and then reshare. Yes. They can click on our website. The link would have taken us directly there. So here's our virtual campus website, or web page, I should say. And I'm clicking now on our parent university. Can everyone see that? Can someone answer?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. So as you can see, here's our virtual campus parent university. So parents will be able to find information by scrolling through any of the hyperlinks on the left-hand side, and are using the thumbnails, if you will, in the center of the page. So for elementary, and we're still building this, so please bear with us. For elementary, if they're looking to see a daily schedule, what is it that my child should be doing? And we presented this to you, to our community, in our last Ed Committee meeting. You'll see what an elementary virtual campus schedule looks like. You'll see the specific pieces of that synchronous, asynchronous, or anytime real-time learning spelled out in terms of subject, times on task, and then which programs are utilized for the instruction. And as we said, with regard to elementary, attendance will be taken in the morning during morning meeting, but at 2 additional checkpoints in the afternoon. Because again, we want to keep tight watch on our levels of participation, so that when we need to triage to make sure students are in its proper attendance, we're able to do that and have the appropriate data. There are learning platforms that are housed under learning platforms. The goal is to make all of this information user-friendly and to have it at the fingertips of our families. We'll continue to upload information. I don't think we have our supplies and materials there yet, but they are ready to be shared out, just again, so families have that information and understanding. I'll go back one more to show. I'm going to go here just for a second, because LTI is one of our special priority programs that we've really been taking great care in making sure that we're partnering properly. As I mentioned, we meet weekly with the LCTI curriculum and technology folks, and I'm going to ask Mrs. Sawyer to step in and walk us through some of the new developments as recently as today that have been shared from LCTI with the district. But before we jump in, we will just speak a little bit to the LCTI program. The LCTI program is going to evolve or roll out, if you will, in 2 primary ways: a hybrid model as well as a virtual model. The virtual model, while it will be primarily populated with the Allentown students, the virtual model is an option for any student that would like to opt into that model. Again, ASD is virtual, so we will primarily be the consumer of the virtual model, but it is open to any student that from any district that attends the CTE program. The hybrid model is comprised of Salisbury, Southern Lehigh, and East Penn, and one other district. Those students that are attending LCTI will be exposed to a 5-day program that has been collapsed into 2 days, and they will attend 2 days on during the virtual closure. The other piece that I wanted to make sure that we mentioned that in addition to this informational piece, LCTI has partnered with the district and will facilitate a number of parent sessions beginning next week, so that we're making sure that we're all communicating the same messaging to our families. And then lastly, September 10th, during our Ed Committee meeting, LCTI will be on hand to present their instructional model. But quickly, if we could, Brandy, have you jump on and just walk us through some of the new information that we've received from LCTI.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was having a problem unmuting. So LCTI as a whole, the ninth grade students enter into a rotational schedule where they do half of their day in ASD and half of their day in a rotational model for the first half or the first part of the semester. So they'll be doing those rotations in their CTE program virtually, and then able to choose a program. So when we do bring students back into the building, they'll be able to go right into practical applications. Our students that are there for a full day in the academic center still take academic courses at LCTI full day. However, as they take those courses full day at LCTI, they'll be taking their academic courses online while they're virtual for the 3 days off. And then the 2 days there, they'll be working in their CTE program as well. So their curriculum and their instructional model is evolving through the process, where we'll start asynchronously and then we'll move into a synchronous model with them as we continue virtual, with the hope that we can bring students back into the classroom to be able to do their practical application as soon as they get back, so they don't miss any instruction.
Okay, thank you. So again, this was just to give an example of where our parent university is at this point. Again, the team has worked very hard to get things uploaded, and we continue to work hard to get them uploaded. I'll move on, but here's their instructional model, but since it's not properly uploaded, I won't walk through that. Let me unshare my screen to move on with the presentation. Oh, I do want to show one thing, and I apologize. Oh boy. Whoops, not there. For our families that, oh, I'm sorry, for our families that are looking to get a jump start. Can everyone see my screen? Yes. Yes. We have a series of how-to videos that have been uploaded. So you can see here how to get started with Class Dojo. That's a class management tool that our teachers use to communicate with their families, how to connect your device to Wi-Fi, how to select an internet browser. Our elementary principals, along with some of our community partners, have gotten together and put together a series of very basic how-to videos so that all of our families can begin to self-direct and prepare themselves even ahead of school starting. So definitely wanted to share that. Okay. Okay. That is one of the last of our updates before we move into special ed, and we'll hear some more about the parent sessions throughout the rest of the presentation. So I'm going to ask Brian Sickett to jump in.
Good evening. This first slide that we're talking when we're getting into the special education department, we are starting an overview of students with disabilities that have an IEP in the virtual world. So we're going to discuss the what's and whys of it. We're going to talk about FAPE and what it is, and moving on down the line of different learning models and the high quality instruction that we will be having. And then we're also going to talk about our communications that we've had already and in the future, and our outreach to different organizations. the different types of supports we're going to offer families, and we're going to also discuss how we're going to monitor all of these systems and obviously talk about the flexibility that is needed. Okay, now we're going to talk about FAPE. What is it? It's a free and appropriate public education for all students. Now, some students in the Allentown School District have IEPs. So when they have that, that is a legal binding document that we will need to follow. So we are, just because we are going virtual, it does not mean at this time that those laws and compliance monitoring checks that we have in place, they just don't go away. We still have to do it. So there's quite a few non-negotiables that we are talking about during this presentation for students. They are specially designed instruction. That's going to have to be met by our teaching staff. We're going to talk about related services later on in the presentation, what they are, how they're going to be delivered, and also to discuss mental health and the behavioral supports that some of our students need. Our IEP teams will still be revising IEPs. We still have the compliance deadlines that we've always had. So if you're issued a permission to be evaluated, that we still would have 60 days even during this time of COVID. We'll continue to have to do progress monitoring for all students and just stay in compliance with all testing. Moving on to health and safety for our school psychologists that are going to be testing these students. That testing does need to be live. So we are following the PDE recommendations and on the guidance that they have offered. And there is the website in case you wanted to see it. The in-person protocols are going to be followed for right now. As of August 1st, we started testing for early intervention students. These are students that are not yet sitting in the Allentown School District, but they will become the first day of school. So in early intervention, some students have an IEP. That's carried through, but we will need to test them to see what it looked like in our educational model. So right now we have 5 centers throughout the school district, that testing centers. They're just centralized for families. We ask them where we can meet, and then we set up the school psychologist follows the protocols at South Mountain Administration Building, Trexler, and the 2 newcomers. What special ed program, student enrollment, and staffing looks like. So this is a slide that talks about our numbers and what they look like. As you can see, as of August, we had 15,218 students, 2,984 of them, 19.6%, are students with IEPs. And this slide is broken down by each building and the percentage of students that have special ed needs. Slide. Now, with this is our staffing model. And so supports, what does support look like? That is, it could be a learning support teacher, emotional support teacher, life skills, autistic. There are 2 groups in this. We have low incidence students and high incidence students. Our high incidence students are included and mainstream. Well, they change the word back and forth all the time from mainstream to inclusion. Right now, the high incidence students are included. Our low incidence are more of our self-contained classrooms. Okay. You can go
Where
forward.
should I be, Brian?
There you go, right there. First thing I want to do with this, when we're talking about high quality instruction, I want to introduce to you our supervisors tonight. They're going to take pieces of the presentation so you don't just have to hear my voice the whole time. So first, to lead us off for high quality instruction is Miss Elizabeth Morales. She is the middle school supervisor. She is the supervisor of middle school for special education. Elizabeth?
Good evening. What is high quality instruction for special education? Well, for our inclusion students, that will be given a differentiated and individualized supports that will be provided by a special education teacher in order for them to meet their individualized education goals, as well as close collaboration with the related service providers. Also, and close collaboration with the regular education, general education teacher. For our low incidence students that will participate in a unique curriculum, that means differentiated supports during scheduled times with special education related service providers in order to meet their individualized education goals and short-term objectives as well. Next slide, please.
Thank you.
Expectations. Part of the expectations for our teachers, and I do apologize, that was in the previous slide as well. It was 3, we're expecting our teachers to hold a minimum of 3 small group instructions, strategically coordinated with the regular education staff, related service providers, students, and caregivers. So that way they receive individualized instruction. Part of this instruction is synchronous, real-time learning, and asynchronous, anytime learning. And real-time learning is face-to-face. The special education collaboration is important with related service providers and caregivers to provide students with the best possible programming in order to meet their individualized education goals. With asynchronous learning, anytime learning is independent learning. The special education teacher will assign work in order to meet the student's IEP goals and in order to meet their specially designed instruction and be able to provide remediation. At this point, I will pass it to my colleague, Mr. Mark Stoltz.
Mark should probably unmute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Stoltz, and I am the Allentown School District's Supervisor of Special Education for the elementary schools. For our low incidence programs, our self-contained classrooms, for K-12, we use the unique curriculum for all subject areas. And the digital platforms we're going to use to deliver that instruction is the Google Classroom, Zoom, and Zoom breakout sessions. And for synchronous learning or real-time learning, live learning, we are using a rotational model to support blended learning because the unique curriculum is a blended learning program. And during synchronous learning, the students will be broken up into 3 groups. Group 1 would be students that are logged into their Chromebooks with the unique curriculum, working on their assignments in their various subject areas, while group 2 is meeting face-to-face with their classroom teacher. And that teacher is working with those students on their areas of need that is supported by the data that's provided by the curriculum. Group 3 is students that are working on skills that have already been taught and have demonstrated an understanding of those skills, but have not reached mastery level criteria yet on those skills. So they're working towards mastering those skills in a more independent setting. Next slide. Asynchronous learning, which has been referred to as anytime learning, with the unique curriculum. Again, there's also 3 groups. And at this time, you will see students again working on their Chromebooks in the unique curriculum. But at this time, they'd be working on skills that have already been taught, and they are practicing them so that those skills are reinforced and they're working towards mastery, while the teacher is working with group 2. And the teacher may be targeting instruction on their IEP goals, on other areas of need, or progress monitoring the students to see where they are in their progression towards mastery of their IEP goals, while there is a group working independently that are working towards mastery on previously learned but not yet mastered goals. Christine?
Thank you and good evening. Yes, I'm Christine Pierre-Pavel. I'm one of the supervisors of special education for our high school programs. I'm going to talk about our virtual high incidence programs. High incidence includes those students in learning support that may or may not also have speech, hearing, visual, and/or emotional needs. We are using the learning management systems as well as virtual platforms listed on the screen to provide synchronous, same time or real time learning and asynchronous, anytime or independent learning. For students in high incidence programs, specially designed instruction using these platforms will be essential for their learning and moving towards mastering their individual goals and objectives. Next slide. Synchronous learning or same time face-to-face learning for high incidence students will follow this rotational model where students are in 3 groups. Group 1, students will log into the core standardized instruction in English, math, social studies, and science using the learning management systems. Group 2, students will have face-to-face time with their general education and special education teachers at times related services as appropriate, who will collaborate on how best to serve the students. Special education teachers will use data and information from the learning management systems, Google Classroom, and Zoom sessions to meet student needs and plan for intervention and/or enrichment instruction and do that in small group breakout sessions. The third group, students will have independent time but still be supported to work on performance mastery targets individually and/or in small breakout groups. Most importantly, we designed structured remote learning for maximum student engagement for our students with disabilities by making sure their virtual learning is age appropriate, relevant, and personalized to them. We want to also create opportunities for positive collaboration with peers and to make sure to check in and connect with families, students and families regularly. Lastly, providing timely feedback as well as supports using Google Classroom and or Zoom platforms will build the students' motivation for learning. Next slide. Asynchronous learning or anytime independent learning for high incidence students will follow this rotational model, which is 3 groups as well. Students again will log in to the core standardized instruction in the content areas using our learning management systems. Group 2, special education teachers will provide flexibility and support. They will use time throughout the day to meet the individual needs of students, monitor their progress on IEP goals, and support them through Google Classroom and or Zoom. And group 3, students will have independent time, but still be supported by special education teachers to work on performance mastery targets individually and or in small breakout groups based on student, family, and teacher schedules. Thank you.
Now we're going to talk about the virtual campus and related services, their roles and responsibilities. And at this point, I'm going to kick it over to Elizabeth, who is no longer muted. Good. And she's going to talk us through what the virtual campus for related services looks like.
The virtual campus for related services incorporates close collaboration between our related service providers, our general education staff, and our teachers in order to meet the students' individualized education plan. The related service providers will be able to provide breakout sessions in small groups of 1-to-1, and also with collaborating with our community partners in order to meet the students' individualized education goals. These plans, as you can see, we have the virtual breakout rooms, and we have occupational therapy, speech therapy, vision, orientation, and mobility will coordinate very closely with all groups and collaboration with the families as well for those 1-to-1 sessions. Next slide, please. What is related services? There are necessary related services will provide where related services will have students benefit from their individualized education plan in order to meet their individualized education goals. Effective special education services and related services is meaningful for all students in order for students to make progress within their general education, as well as specially designed instruction, and as well as their individualized education goals as the IEP team fits and deems the students needed in order to meet their individualized needs. Next slide, please. These are the roles and responsibilities for our related service providers. We have speech and language therapy, improves communication from physical therapy to improve gross motor skills, American Sign Language interpreters that are provided by IU21, counseling services, and transportation when needed for our students based on their individualized education plan and their disability category. Next slide, please.
Now we're going to talk about virtual learning conditions and schedules. When we were brick and mortar, the teacher managed the schedule. They guided the classroom. They're sitting face to face with them. The teacher's continually prompting them and actually seeing their progress or lack of progress and make the changes in person. Now, things are totally going to be very different because being virtual, now you have families and students, they're going to have to manage their own schedule. The teachers at this time, we have the schedules posted, but they're not in front of them. So it's going to look very different. The student IEP initiatives and learning guides, learning routines. The teacher is going to be doing that. The family is going to be part of that along with the student. It's going to be a continued communication, two-way communication, whether it be asynchronous or synchronous learning. And the frequent monitoring is going to happen in both worlds, by the teachers, by our office. The low incidence schedule for synchronous learning is above. Now, what we're looking at here, this is like a rotational model because it allows at this time for what Elizabeth just spoke about, the opportunity for related service providers to come in and coordinate with the low incidence teacher. We're going to have targeted group instruction based on the IEP goals. So if a teacher sees 2 or 3 students around the same level, she can do that in a breakout room with a small group instruction. And at that time, we can move forward with our progress monitoring. Going to be able to continue to have our IEP meetings during these times as well. But we also know that we're going to need flexibility from people because, for example, if a parent is working until 5 o'clock at night, they're not going to be able to go and do an IEP meeting. So we are going to have to be flexible. This is a lot of the things that we've already done, and it's pretty amazing the outreach that has happened already. If we could speak to the next slide, we first will discuss the communication we're doing through our communications department. We're posting things continuously on the website, school messenger calls, using radio stations. Again, Dr. Brown talked about Parent University, and then I'm going to speak a little bit more about the FAQs a little bit later. Our outreach, when we had our opening of schools task force, we've reached out to the Arc of the Lehigh Valley. Just today, we were in meetings, setting up meetings with Casa Guadalupe because we know a lot of our students go there maybe now during the day, possibly after school, and we wanted to build that bridge with them. And we had a great meeting today to talk about how we can collaborate together in the community. Another one that we did reach out to and spoke with and are continuing to work with is the Children's Clinic at the Lehigh Valley Network, because they do see a lot of our students, especially the low incidence students. Next slide, please. Thank you. How we're going to support our families and what are we going to do? A lot of them have questions. Well, just this past Tuesday, we started out with a group professional development for parents. I believe we had a total of 36 people on the call, on the Zoom call. There was numerous questions about what's going to happen. People just want information. So we've set it up. We had it again today. We had a little bit lower number than 36, but we still had quite a turnout. We're going to move towards having a 1-hour live Q&A session at least once a week. If it calls for more, then we certainly would be able to do more. We continue to feed the communication department things with regular updates that can be put on our Parent University. And another thing that was pointed out that we have available in our department, which is a big resource for families, is our special education facilitator. We're going to utilize them not only helping the case managers and within the building and manage that, but they can offer strategic conflict resolution. If a parent's having a problem, they might call the principal. The principal's in a million things, and we give it to the special education facilitator to solve the problem. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, how are we going to monitor this? We have reports from all of the virtual platforms that we're using. We'll review them bi-weekly. We have something that's called a roll call, where our facilitators and supervisors sometimes are in the roll calls, meeting with our teachers, who are called case managers, and walking through it. We're looking at things like compliance. We're looking at due dates for possible reevaluations, students' grades, attendance. All of those types of things are covered in a roll call. We will have virtual walkthroughs, building level, bi-weekly meetings. Our department does meet at least monthly, usually more, but I just put monthly there because that definitely happens. It's going to happen a little bit more now in the beginning until we're up and running, but we'll definitely be meeting at least monthly. And we're going to also have our continued focus on our school improvement plans, because they were called out as part of the subgroup of special education, why they're on those improvement plans. This is Dr. Brown's big word. It wasn't mine, but I loved it. Programmatic adaptability. I'm not being mean, I'm being nice. She's making me sound smart. So see the word in parentheses, that's what I wrote. Flexibility. It's a true story. So programmatic adaptability is required to have sustainability. And I sat in her office and thought and looked, and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about now. So with that, we know things change moment by moment. You all know that. So we are asking everyone that is in our department to be extremely flexible. Our related service providers are going to continue offering these services, but we're going to base it on the teacher schedule and make sure we get it. Individual schedules will be scheduled based on the family's availability. We are going to continue with the Q&A, as we said. I believe that one thing that was on here that got taken out, we're trying very hard to nail down how we can put in a special education hotline or interpretation and translation services for other languages. We have that available. Our low incidence students in small group, as we spoke to before, we strategically put them in these small groups based on their levels. And again, we may need to call on the person who is in the room and are with our low incidence students to assist the student in navigating this virtually. Next slide. And I believe at this point, this is where I turn it back over to Dr. Brown, and she's going to finish this up.
Right.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, so again, as we've done in the past, we want to make sure that we let our community, our school board of directors know what our next steps are. Oh, something happened here. Know what our next steps are. Don't know what happened to my PowerPoint. Oh, here it is. My apologies, I hit something wrong. So we wanted to share what our next steps are. Again, just to make sure that we're absolutely communicating out and letting everyone know what we're doing. I mentioned earlier in the presentation that we've partnered or reinvigorated our partnerships with our local child care centers. So the intention is to have a citywide meeting for collaboration. I spoke about the academic collaboration, but let me also mention collaboration on meals, so that our students that are in our local child care centers during this virtual closure period will still be fed and still be receiving their ASD meals, breakfast and lunch, and multiple meals where applicable. We will host a virtual town hall tomorrow for our teachers to give them a number of updates that we shared here this evening, but also some specific information that our teachers are absolutely waiting on. But again, working through the process and things changing, this is now the time for that to occur. We will continue to hold outreach and informational sessions based on programs. So you heard Mr. Sickett speak a bit to his sessions. Our academic team has some sessions scheduled beginning next week. LCTI will be partnering with us for some sessions. Our goal is to saturate the environment, if you will, with parent sessions so that we're able to provide a live opportunity for our families to ask whatever questions they need and to quell some of the angst and anxiety and let them know that while this is all new, we are in this together and we're absolutely going to be in partnership in this work. We are absolutely enjoying planning for our virtual convocation, not just because it's the most challenging thing I think we've ever had to do in addition to going virtual, but making sure that we welcome our teachers back appropriately on September 1st. We're continuing our device and Wi-Fi distribution. Yeah, we forgot to talk about that, but I guess we'll have to update that a little later. We'll continue the device and Wi-Fi distribution. We're currently working through that. Our buildings are busy having distribution times scheduled each day for our families. A reminder, families, we absolutely need you to continue to register for virtual campus. That is how we're making sure that we can intentionally get devices, Chromebooks, and Wi-Fi's into the hands of our students through the registration for virtual campus process, which is on our website as well. We continue to acquire different types of PPE so that when we move into our hybrid model, based on our community spread levels, we are ready and not waiting to the last moment to acquire those things. And then lastly, our next presentation, very similar to what you heard this evening, will be on our ESOL program and a deeper dive into our LCTI program and the partnership that we've cultivated in that regard for our students. And so that concludes our update for this 2-week period. So this is information that is all new from our August 13th visit, or I'm sorry, meeting. And you can look forward to hearing another update on September 10th during our regular education committee meeting.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brown, and everybody else who presented on the opening of schools. I know it's been a task, so thank you for all your time and effort put into it to make sure our children are receiving the education they need. Ms. Johnson-Watts, I see that your hand is up. If you have a question or comment.
Yes, first I want to say congratulations. This went from this massive what to a major how. And congratulations to all of you on successfully rolling out a plan. And what I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that I was very happy to hear. One, of course, is the different virtual education opportunities that are going to be provided to the parents. But the other is the direct mail provision of library cards. If anyone who knows me well knows how strongly I feel about the importance of the public library. So I can't say enough how much I appreciate the way that this has been interwoven into the entire outreach. And then the other thing is I never knew the phrase free appropriate public education. So thank you for the education on that. And then the question I had as we were going along, which I was so thrilled to see was happening, was the community partners that are going to be supporting as well as supplementing some of the interactions that are going to be critical at this point in time. We would all love to believe that everyone's looking at their cell phone or is on Facebook, but there's still folks who are just going through every single day, and when they catch their breath, a Casa Guadalupe or some other organization is the perfect way to find out what they need to know. So thank you for that. And then the only other question that I had was, is it possible for us to continue to receive information on the number of parents that do participate and take hold of some of these opportunities? Because that is so helpful to us to know that the community has really been impacted.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I may, not related to what you just said, but I absolutely forgot this. There was a slide missing, but I have to go back. A heartfelt thank you to our IT department, Jose Rivera. We were in a bind just yesterday afternoon trying to determine supports for our teachers and how to get them in time for them for September 1. And he went above and beyond. He got us exactly what we needed, temporarily for free, so that we can go back and re-identify the proper resource. But without him, we wouldn't be able to welcome our teachers back with the supports that they need. So special kudos and shout out to IT and Jose Rivera as well. So I just had to go back and say that.
I do have a question. I know in the presentation it was that the kids are going to be using Google Classroom to have information shared between the teacher and the class. Is that the only Google option teachers have in the Google Suite, or can they use things like Google Sites to create class websites for their students to be able to access with additional information on it?
So I'll begin and then I'll allow anyone from the academic team to jump in. Yes, they are. What we're doing is making sure that any of these other platforms, if you will, like a Google Sites, we're going to have objective criteria that if you're going to use them, here's what's allowed and here's what we're expecting. So we have some degree of standardization while still allowing any autonomy. And we actually have developed, and again, thank you to Brandy Sawyer. She took lead on this. A Google Site professional learning space for our teachers. And we'll highlight that during our next meeting, but absolutely that will be available to our teachers to use. And I don't know if anyone from the academic team would like to jump in.
And that'll be K to 12, that everybody will be able to use it?
I will say yes with an asterisk. And the asterisk would account for anything that I don't know at this moment in time that could come up.
Okay.
Okay.
Do any other board members have any questions or comments? All right, so that was just an update presentation. We're not voting on anything with that. That was just to bring us up to speed. So there are 4 items on the superintendent's report. May I have a motion for the approval of those items?
So moved.
Ms.
That was Audrey.
Matheson, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Wilt, any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Mrs. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Okay. Next is the personnel report. May I have a motion for the approval of the personnel report?
So moved. This is Cheryl.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Thiel, any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Conover,
Yes.
Mrs. Brace,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you. And Mr. Parker, you have an introduction to make?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm actually going to have Miss Pollock prepare because I want her to have the honor of introducing our new hire to the district. As you know, we have a long standing employee who did dynamic work for the district, who retired earlier this year in Rooster. You know you're famous if you're known by just one name. So we've searched and identified someone who in Rooster is irreplaceable, but someone who can come in and be a dynamic version of himself and provide great supports for our homeless families here in the Allentown School District. So Ms. Pollock.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to introduce Jimmy Torres as our homeless liaison. Jimmy is a product of Allentown School District. He formerly worked for Center for Humanistic Change, where he aligned our families and students with resources. He worked in a number of our schools across the district. He knows our students, he knows our families, and is very familiar with the community. I'm excited to have him as part of our team here in ASD, and looking forward to working with him.
So for our community, for our district, for our leadership, that is an absolutely critical and important role. And I wanted to absolutely make sure that we took pause to recognize Jimmy and know that he will have a great impact on our community moving forward.
Thank you very much. Next up is the finance report. May I have a motion for the approval of the finance report?
So moved.
Mr. Thiel, is there a second?
I'll second.
Wilt, any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Miss Wilt,
Yes.
Miss Vega,
Yes.
Mrs. Brace,
Yes.
Miss Conover,
No.
is that a no?
That's a no.
Okay, Miss Harris,
Yes.
Miss Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Miss Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel.
Yes.
8-1 passes.
Okay. Next is the building report. May I have a motion for the approval of the building report?
So moved.
Mr. Miller, is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Harris, any discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Brace,
Yes.
Miss Vega,
Yes.
Miss Wilt,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Miss Matheson,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Miss Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Conover.
Yes.
9-0 passes.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, if there is anybody from the public who would like to speak on non-agenda items, now is the time to raise your hand. I see Eugene Clay is first. Eugene, if you can unmute yourself. Okay, let's try Laura.
Can you hear me?
Yes, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Okay. My name is Laura Zaharakis, and I live at 1500 Coltsville Road in Lower Saucon Township. I appreciate this time to speak to the board. I've been a school counselor in the district for over 15 years. I am speaking today because I have some questions and thoughts to share about equity and social justice in our district. To be honest, I actually feel a bit uncomfortable talking about this here because I respect my administrative leaders and I know that I do not know the operational ins and outs of creating and making program decisions. But I also know that people shouldn't be shy about asking questions and voicing concerns because if one person has them, chances are that others do too. And my intention is purely to be helpful. Before I go on, I think some context of why I'm speaking today is necessary. Last month, I attended a virtual American School Counselor Association conference. One of the sessions highlighted how the Ask a National model, which is a framework used by school counselors to design and deliver school counseling services, is an effective and efficient way to help their students. The model emphasizes using data about student needs to make program decisions. This is an example of how the model is one of social justice. After the session, I found myself reflecting on two things. One is how important it is to advocate in Pennsylvania for more equitable and fair funding for school districts. And I'm grateful that Mr. Parker is involved in this advocacy work for our district and our students so that they can have increased opportunities and access to resources that students in wealthier districts and other zip codes have. The second is the big question of whether or not systems in the Allentown School District reflect the ideals of social justice. Are decisions about which schools get different supports based on data or something else? I've been thinking a lot about social justice in my self-education, about systemic racism and self-reflection on my hopeful journey towards anti-racism. I recently listened to a podcast in which Ibram Kendi makes clear why and how the silence of white people who identify as non-racist has hurt people of color in our communities. Well, my silence as someone working in a system of inequity is not helping my students. So I need to voice my observations from the front lines. It is important to add that over the years, I have shared my concerns about what seems to be an equitable distribution of resources with several colleagues and also some leaders that I thought could be helpful. The resources I reference are primarily people. Our schools and families need skilled people to help, intervene, and support in a timely and effective way. Examples of the things I wonder about include, why do some elementary schools have more than one corporate partnership and others have none? Why do some schools have positions dedicated to family engagement and others do not? Why do schools with nearly the same number of students have a different number of administrators or counselors to support those students? And why do some schools have access more than others to parent liaisons and outreach workers? There are many more examples like this. Some examples are due to inequitable staffing ratios. Some examples are due to the benefits of community schools. The reality is that in our school district, a student and family who live on one street do not have the same access to resources and support as a student living on a different street. Can I have like 10 more seconds?
Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. I want to make clear that the pattern of decisions and systems that created this inequity started years before the current administration. My concern is the present situation and how the district can make progress, especially during this time of heightened needs. My hope is that our families and stakeholders will see future evidence of the district moving towards a more equitable system of social justice for our children, just as the strategic plan outlines. In closing, I have to say that I'm proud to work for this district. I chose to work in this district over others because it is my hometown and I want to do what I can do now to help the children thrive. I deeply care about the dynamic and promising community, and I'm motivated by the words of John Lewis. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something and you have to do something. So that's why I spoke tonight. And there's a lot of talent in this district, and I think we really need to collaborate with each other as well as with the community stakeholders to ensure that every student in the Allentown School District has access to the same standard of care and equitable educational resources. Thank you.
Next on the list is Mark Leibold. Mark, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, President Brace. Mark Leibold, Downtown Education Association President, 2101 Mac Boulevard. Majority of my role as education leadership is advocacy. I've spent my career advocating for fair, funded public schools for all students across our Commonwealth, regardless of their zip code. Would not be fulfilling my responsibility if I did not advocate strenuously for the professionals I represent. I'd like to take this time to acknowledge Mr. Parker's exemplary leadership in being the first superintendent in the state to call for full virtual instructions for our students. I was inspired to see Allentown School District take the lead. Equally inspirational was the monumental response of our educators to the Herculean task of switching to virtual learning. On the obverse, reopening plans for the professional staff of this district took too long. There was too much time that passed between the decision for our students to return virtually and for the professional staff to be informed about what returning to work would look like for the 2021 school year. The profession is already stressful. Add the stress of the daily existence during the pandemic to not knowing what the upcoming school year would look like with less than 1 week before opening. We have a situation that was overwhelming for many of our professional staff in this district. Lacked consideration. It has deep impact on instructional staff's ability to appropriately plan and therefore has lasting repercussions to our students' education. Not happen again. I am equally concerned that the lack of fair and equitable collective bargaining agreement will be construed in much the same light. Please, I implore the district to come to the association with a meaningful proposal and the will to bargain as required to settle this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark. Next on the list is Miss Sonia. Miss Sonia, hi, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Sonia Davis, 329 and a half North 15th Street, Allentown, PA.
Okay, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, I would like to thank Dr. Parker initially for allowing me at least a phone call to express how I felt about the virtual learning and how the childcare industry can support the families of Allentown School District. And I would like to thank Dr. Lucretia Brown for including me on several meetings so I can stay abreast of, what's going on and actually being willing to collaborate with the childcare industry. Lucretia also has attended some director network meetings, and we as childcare directors, we are excited to have that relationship so that we can continue to work as a team. I just wanted to say I'm thankful for that. It's an opportunity, and it's a good thing. And all the future stuff that we have to work on to make sure that the Allentown School District students can receive the support as well as their families is phenomenal. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Sonia. Next on the list is Tim Kearney.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and address for the record.
Tim Kearney, 6065 Whitetail Drive, Coopersburg.
Thank you.
Dr. Matheson, or Miss Matheson, Dr. Brown, and Mr. Parker, I hope you are enjoying my emails. Feel free to forward them if you would like. Thanks for asking for our input as teachers and community on the reopening our teaching setting and for SROs. I appreciate that. I also, I'm hoping that negotiations are resolved to take one of the stressors off the plate of our teachers. I understand the situation you're in. My daughter goes to a surrounding district, and the same day she was getting notification about her busing to go for a hybrid in-person, we were getting an email from the district saying they were closing. So I can't imagine what the district administration is going through. However, I do want to say that our teachers just found out this week, midweek, about our setting. And so they had been waiting to find out about setting up daycare. And I realized a lot of people are in that situation. But it was a little bit stressful for them to find out. I still haven't been able to really get on Edgenuity to find out the program that the kids will be learning. And I'm just asking for the community patience. I'm an old dinosaur. I started with film strips and movie projectors and chalkboards. And now I'm learning Edgenuity, Class Dojo, Google Classroom, Google Slides, how to run a Zoom meeting, and Bitmoji. Last thing I want to say is the new school. We had the staff was invited in, and it is an incredible building. So I want to thank everybody for getting that done on time. And it's a beautiful place to be teaching. I'm looking forward to when the students can return there. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next on the list is Jessica Ortiz. Okay, her hand went down. Next is Sharon Billington. Sharon, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Karen Billington, 1509 Chew Street, Allentown. I just want to thank the Allentown School District for rising to this occasion. I can honestly say I have never seen any administration in our past 35 years be able to coordinate and mobilize the way you have under these conditions. This is all new for teachers, parents, students, administration, everybody out there. And I am very impressed with the dedication that I've seen from administration, from teachers hanging in there, from parents, and from the students themselves. It is not ideal. Kids learn better in person, but you're doing the best you can under extraordinary circumstances. And I just wanted to say it's not gone unnoticed. It may not be preferential, but it has been amazing how you tried and you are trying and you are continuing and you are doing it all and trying to pull it and pulling it together. The one comment I do have to make is that over the past years, computer training for our children has been very lacking and very minimal in all grade levels. That is something that you guys got to focus on now, and you have to start early in elementary. Yes, children know how to play games and how to use their thumbs with texting and things in that regard, but they don't understand quite all the mechanics of things. And this is what you're going to be finding out as school starts, because parents don't know some of these things too, because it has evolved so much. But the computer access and training has to be done young, has to be done early, has to be done throughout all the grades and building upon it for what's going to be needed for specific courses. So I'm encouraging the board to look at those kind of trainings for our children and having them as, you know, graded courses. Also, when we do go back in person, that this technology end does not fall behind again. This has to be maintained now because this is the way of the future. And just like Mr. Kearney said, I am a relic of the past. I'm lucky I can do my email. I do not own a cell phone and I do not know how to text. So these are things that parents don't have access to, whether because of not being able to afford them or never learning themselves. So it will require patience, but it will also require getting in there and keeping our kids current with everything and not letting them fall behind again. But again, thank you so much. Congratulations on how well this is moving. It will have its ups and downs. We will have frustrations and failures, but we will also have great successes. And that's what we all have to focus on. So thank you very much for all that you've done.
Thank you, Sharon. Jessica Ortiz.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, if you can state your name and address for the record.
Jessica Lee Ortiz, 523 Tillman Street, Allentown, PA 18102.
Okay, and you have 3 minutes.
First, I just want to thank the Allentown School District, Superintendent Parker and Ms. Phoebe Harris for helping us out, and the Black Student Union with our company Cultures Collide this weekend, where we were able to service and meet 650 families from Allentown and reach out and kind of find their needs. So I really thank them and appreciate them for partnering with us on this opportunity. I'd also like to say, as of today, the Ortiz Arc Foundation has been able to provide stable work environments for Allentown School District families. And we just want to make it known that we are working with any families in the community that may not have a space and helping them create spaces. Just something as simple as a trifold or a TV tray for those that do not have dining room tables, or creating a workspace for families who have 3 or 4 children in one space, and working with the school district to make sure they all have their own computers, and then creating a space that they can all kind of focus and be in tune together. So I thank for the partnership, and I really appreciate it. And I just wanted to put that out there about the Ortiz Arc Foundation and how we're trying to at least help with the families. And if you do know of any families that don't have a workspace and we need to help, we're here at no charge and at the service of the community.
Thank you, Jessica, and for all you're doing in the community. I don't hear any other hands raised, so we'll move on to is there any old business to come before the board? Seeing and hearing none, there is new business. Mr. Parker, I'm requesting for us to have a discussion around athletics. If I'll kick it off to you to share some athletic information with the board and the community.
Thank you. Thank you. To begin this conversation, and I know we have a number of our parents and our students and our staff members that are eager and excited for the athletic season to begin, that are online. We're going to have a continued conversation this evening about athletics. But before we do that, I would not be myself if I did not take the opportunity to express some of my thoughts and concerns. And this is Thomas. I don't even know if this is Superintendent Parker. This is Thomas. So I'm going to read you the definition of equity from the National School Board Association. We affirm in our actions that each student can, will, and shall learn. We recognize that based on factors including, but not limited to, disability, race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic status, students are deprived of equitable educational opportunities. Educational equity is the intentional allocation of resources, instruction, and opportunities according to need, requiring that discriminatory practices, prejudices, and beliefs be identified and eradicated. So let me say that and say to my board and to my community, as many boards and communities have had conversations as of recent as it relates to sports. I've taken an opportunity to crosswalk the districts in our Commonwealth that have decided to play and that have decided not to play for whatever various reasons. And it struck me that overwhelmingly, the districts that have chosen not to play are districts that are economically disadvantaged, are districts that are African-American, and districts that are Latinx. It is not by accident that the districts that are urban in urban cities are the districts that find themselves in this place to make decisions for the best interests of our children that are seemingly misaligned with communities that are around us that are making some different decisions in the same spaces. So as my board ponders and considers what the outcome of education and athletics will be for students, know that it is against the backdrop of what I'm going to clearly identify is a failure in leadership at the level of our Commonwealth to address this situation in a way that provides equity for all of the students that we serve. I will tell you 100%. The last thing that I want is for any student to be to not have the opportunities to compete. The last thing that we want is for any of our students to be disadvantaged, disenfranchised, or disconnected from the value that competition brings. So why is it that we find ourselves here, either by intention or by accident, that districts that are overwhelmingly economically disadvantaged, African-American and Latinx, are the districts that have overwhelmingly identified that it's not safe for athletic competition? I think it is, I won't use that word. I think it's unfair to my board members who are having to ponder this evening, and to our community who is having to wait and deal with this issue as many are, that this is something from an equity standpoint that our children or other children in other districts that look like Allentown have been disadvantaged from competition, while boards and superintendents and athletic directors and principals work to ensure that as we keep kids safe, we also keep them in spaces where they're not deprived of opportunity. I hate that this is a decision that has to be made, but it is a decision that has to be made. But I wanted to make sure to put those records, those comments on the record. And I would challenge anyone to do the research, look at the districts that have chosen to not play, and tell me if you see any level of a pattern. And if you do, then ask yourself about equity and what equity means in terms of resource allocation and opportunity for students that are being served in economically disadvantaged African-American and Latinx districts. With that, I could say that, and then you all don't have to. I will open the floor to Ms. Ramos and Mr. Falco to walk through a presentation this evening regarding our potential options for return to play sports for this season.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Mr. Falco, can you share your screen, please? And while he's doing that, I'll just quick introduction. We do have Mr. Dave Stout here, the athletic director from DRF. We have Mr. Randy Attia here, the athletic director from Allen. And as Mr. Parker said, our team's been doing a lot of internal research, a lot of analysis, and we've been having a lot of difficult conversations to bring forward this information to you. So we're going to share with you some updates around the information we've received and the county's received from our health providers. We're going to share with you the research we've done around what's happening within our conference and within the state around the districts that are going virtual. And we're going to post some options for the board to consider and try to make this as concrete as possible so that you all are tasked with a very difficult decision. Hopefully this will help you. It's as much research as we could generate at this point in time, and know that it does change regularly. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Falco and our athletic directors.
Thank you, Jen. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Parker. As Jen said, we're going to review some information. We're going to start with the information we received, the guidance from our health partners, St. Luke's and Lehigh Valley Health Network. And we'll start with St. Luke's. School districts throughout the region are currently in a moderate risk classification. No school districts are in a hotspot zone. And while children infected with COVID-19 are less likely to develop severe illness compared with adults, children are still at risk of developing severe illness and complications from COVID-19. The incidence of reported positive cases since initiating the voluntary workout period for high school sports has been extremely low. Athletic directors and coaches have done an excellent job in returning District 11 student athletes to exercise without undue risk of viral transmission, as almost all positive cases among athletes appear to be the result of activities outside of sports. Sports that involve close, sustained contact between participants lack significant protective barriers, and have a high probability that respiratory particles will be transmitted are considered high risk for transmission. The ability to eliminate or minimize danger zones is critical. These areas include locker rooms, buses, transportation, equipment rooms, and travel from low to higher risk areas. Resocialization plans must include detailed strategies for these areas. Likewise, the PIAA published guidance entitled Return to Competition Individual Sport Guidelines, designed to provide strategies for mitigating risk of disease transmission by sport. Strict adherence to these guidelines may mitigate the risk of disease transmission in sport. The mental and emotional benefits of coach to athlete and athlete to athlete relationships are well documented. Strategies to maintain these connections are very important. The importance of regular physical activity and measured resocialization to sport and other extracurricular opportunities is critical. Whether or not competition is recommended by a district, structured opportunities for student athletes should continue. The Lehigh Valley Health Network, the current Pennsylvania Department of Health data shows that our region is above, in some cases well above, the 10 cases per 1,000 people threshold, which according to the PA Department of Health and national guidelines equates to a moderate medium risk for community transmission. This gating criteria is important to consider when determining if and what sports should be allowed to participate in competitions. Low contact risks, sports that can be done with social distancing or individually without sharing of equipment or ability to clean the equipment between use by competitors. Examples of these types of sports would be bowling, diving, fencing, golf, rifle, skiing, swimming, tennis, track and field. Cross country can be put into the low risk category if appropriate accommodations are made. Moderate and intermediate contact risk sports. These involve close, sustained contact, but with protective equipment in place that may reduce the likelihood of respiratory particle transmission between participants, or intermittent close contact, or group sports, or sports that use equipment that can't be cleaned between participants. Examples: baseball, softball, gymnastics. High contact risk sports that involve close, sustained contact between participants, lacks of significant protective barriers, and high probability that respiratory particles will be transmitted between participants. Examples of these sports would be wrestling, football, soccer, competitive cheer, and volleyball. In talking with Allentown Department of Health and Vicki Kissler today, she reminded us that it's not necessarily the kids that are involved in the actual sport, involved in the practice, involved in the games, but it's the things that kids do outside of that that we do not have control of. That's important when it comes to the spread of COVID-19. As Mr. Parker said, we took a look at school districts in Pennsylvania. We took a look at schools, districts within our own EPC. And those going virtual across the state have either canceled, delayed, or suspended their fall athletic program. Some of these districts are contemplating change. And we've seen a lot of change in the last 48 hours. EPC districts, the survey went out 24 hours ago, and many of those school districts have changed their mind about participation. We've updated our health and athletic, our athletic health and safety plan to include return to competition. As you may recall, the board had approved and reviewed our athletic health and safety plan as it pertained to voluntary workouts for our kids. We spent significant time with the athletic directors and our health partner, St. Luke's, and Amy Cotter, head trainer, to revise the health and safety plan to include return to competition. We've taken the PIAA's language in their document, return to competition, and infused that into our own plan, as many school districts have done or will do. The plan itself includes much of what was in the original plan, but the return to competition really delves into venue and venue logistics. So we've taken a look at those venues that our kids would participate in. For example, tennis, we participate at Oakmont Tennis Club and our own J. Bernie Crum Stadium. As Mr. Parker said, we propose some board considerations as options. And I don't know if you want to take it from here, Mr. Parker, or would you like me to continue with the options?
Sorry, I was muted. So I'll step in here for a little bit, and then I'll kick it back. And then we have both of our athletic directors here as well. And over the past couple of weeks, we've had a number of conversations regarding this, and I respect and value both of them, and they bring a lot of perspective to the conversation as well. And I start this by saying, and I've been saying it all day and for the past few days, there are no wrong decisions. It's just, I think, a matter of what your best perspective could be based on the children that you serve and where you see value is important. I personally lose sleep because I know and understand the impact and the value that sports has for kids who find college and other opportunities because of their impact in sports, and potentially limiting or mitigating their ability to have that avenue is something that I personally struggle with 100%. So when you look at the options that are available for board consideration, the first option is playing lower risk sports and counseling others. Option 2 is to play all sports on the current schedule as proposed. Option 3 is playing the low risk sports and then postponing high risk sports to later in the school year and seeking an opportunity for competition during that time. And then option 4 would be canceling all sports or suspending all sports in the district. So I'll kick it back to Mr. Falco and to our 2 athletic directors. They are infinitely more well-versed in each of these and its impact than I. And again, I'm going to circle again the position that this board and other boards are in terms of making these decisions based on the local district and local control. I think is not a fair situation, because this involves competition across districts and across schools. Inherently, there are some equity concerns abound if one community and one district has a different situation in terms of COVID and its impact. And we know the impact of COVID in communities like the ones that we serve. Having to make this decision is not one that I envy. So I absolutely support you and applaud you for your for your level of engagement and really listening to our community and making this decision and voting with, you know, the best intentions for kids in mind. So Mr. Falco and Stout and Atia.
Yes. Mr. Parker, I was involved along with Randy and Dave in an EPC meeting late this afternoon. As things are changing, drastically in this 36 hours. Dave, if you could just kind of give us a bit of an update on the EPC meeting that took place this afternoon.
Okay, so the East Penn Conference has decided to move forward with fall sports, meaning all fall sports, with a delayed schedule, which was approved a few weeks back. We did vote on that a few weeks back, and we approved the move ahead with the fall schedule with a delay start time for competitions. All 16 schools are moving forward. They will be putting out schedules tomorrow. They are just waiting to find out if Allentown is opting in or opting out. It is my belief if we opt out that we will lose fall sports, other than low impact sports if we do vote on that. But we will lose the fall seasons. It'll be hard logistically to play in the spring if all other schools go all in now with fall sports. It'll be very hard to schedule games with teams within our county or within our area. It would also take away from our spring sports if we would play fall sports in the fall or in the spring, I'm sorry. It would create a challenge to field teams. But again, the East Penn Conference, all surrounding school districts, including Emmaus and Pocono Mountain West, which are both fully virtual, are opting in for all fall sports. I don't know if Randy, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, Dave, I think you kind of covered everything. I know it was cutting out a little bit there, but I did want to just make that clear that I know one of the options there lists that an alternative spring fall season. So moving this current fall season to the spring, I don't necessarily think that is a possibility at this point. It just doesn't sound like the PIAA is going to do that because of so many schools playing. In addition, as Dave said, we wouldn't have anybody in our local area at this point to even play. So we would have to travel, make considerate travel to actually play somebody else around us. It's just not going to happen. If I know Dave had given some of the facts and where the EPC is, I'm going to take a moment, if that's okay, Mr. Falco, Mr. Parker, to just kind of give my opinion on it. And I just feel strongly about it. So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and speak to, my opinion on this decision. I do want to give a quick shout out. I know it's late, but Mr. Falco's birthday is today. So happy birthday to Mr. Falco. He's been working real hard on this entire project with us. So just going forward, again, I want to thank the administration. I respect Mr. Parker's thoughts on this subject. But I do wear my heart on my sleeve and I fight for our kids. So I might get emotional, but that's okay. And again, some may argue that allowing sports to go on is not fighting for our kids and it might not be protecting them, but I would argue that. As an assistant coach with the legendary Doug Snyder for almost a decade, I saw firsthand every single day the impact that athletics has on our young people in a positive way. There's no doubt about that. There's no questions about that. And Mr. Parker did touch on that. Student athletes participating in sports will have their lives impacted for the better. I do not need a health network to tell me that or to prove that. I do not need a political party to decide that. It is fact. I've lived it. So board of directors, I ask you this. Why not choose the path that we know impacts students in a positive way rather than choose to take it all away because of something that may impact students in a negative way? You see, there are always risks to participating in athletics, yet we play them anyways because we know the benefits far outweigh the risk. That's why an ambulance is parked outside of a football stadium on every Friday night. I see this as being no different. On behalf of William Allen Athletics and our department, I ask you to let them play. Our students are often placed at a disadvantage in many areas, and that is no secret. I think we have the opportunity here tonight to make sure that we do not add to those disadvantages and confirm what many of our students already think when they come to school every single day. Thank you.
Mr. Parker, can you speak at all about spring sports?
Yeah, so I will, and I'll start with, I absolutely respect and value the perspective that our athletic department is bringing. And if they were not advocating for kids, I'd have a problem with all of them. So without question, that is exactly where they should be. We just have to make sure that we balance safety as well. I understand the impact and the opportunity for kids. But it's a really hard conversation if and when we do have cases where students are positive or become positive through competition and activity and collaboration with people from other schools and other communities. And again, there's a reason why urban districts around the Commonwealth have made the decision. One of the things that I've been interested in exploring is if there is an opportunity to push back some of the sports until the spring, if there would potentially be other schools, other districts that would be open to playing some competitive sports in another season. During that time, we potentially have the opportunity to have better testing in place so that our students are not at a disadvantage as it relates to safety with COVID. There are just so many variables right now. And again, I will underline, our teams, our athletic directors, our trainers have done an exemplary job. This is not at all a reflection on anyone else. This is my perspective. I would love to see and would have loved to have seen our Commonwealth, our PIAA, or even our EPC. You can tell them I said it, I don't care about anybody. I would have loved to have seen someone take the opportunity to step back and assess the impact on districts and schools that serve students that are economically disadvantaged, African American, and Latinx, and then ask the question about moving forward. Because now we're at a place where our kids potentially are disadvantaged because everyone else is moving forward. And I don't have any issue with anyone else, but if the issue is creating a level playing field, and we know that there are communities that are impacted differently, now we're at a space where we have to make the decision whether or not to further disadvantage our kids. And I don't think that's a good space for us to be in. And I think there are opportunities to explore whether there's something available in the spring. Again, I would probably agree with the athletic department that that's a less likely and less attractive option, but it is an option compared to, if you see some of the other districts on the screen that have decided to cancel or suspend sports for the season. And many of them are school districts that have similar demographics to Allentown. So I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to have a balanced kind of presentation and approach. There are pros, there are cons on each side of the aisle. Ultimately, as a board and as individual board members, you have to make this decision with, and I'm sure with a heavy heart. But we wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to hear perspective on both sides of the aisle and have a balanced level of information to process from, because I know this will be a tough decision.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Ms. Conover, I see your hand is raised if you would like to start us off.
Finally. So, I want to ask a question first, Mr. Parker, because I'm stuck on urban. I keep hearing you say urban districts are at a disadvantage. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh, so what that means is if you look at the list of districts that have decided to suspend sports for the season, primarily those are districts that are urban, economically disadvantaged, and communities of color, which means if they've decided to suspend or delay sports, the children that live in those communities are not competing in the regular cycle of sports as the other kids across the Commonwealth are competing in the regular cycle of sports right now. And to me, it's a disadvantage because there are kids who get college scholarships every day because of their athletic prowess. And it isn't all football. There are kids that get field hockey and every other, I mean, there are kids that change their lives based on athletics. And this is for them. And I'm talking about not just Allentown, but all districts that have had to make this decision while we continue sports across the Commonwealth. It puts them at a disadvantage.
So are you saying because of that, we shouldn't, or the recommendation would be we shouldn't move forward with fall sports because other districts who are Black and brown have decided that they're not? Are we allowing them to make a decision for us?
I don't think that's anywhere close to what I said.
No, okay, so that was a question, so you answered it. So here's the thing with me, and I've spoken to the board, I've sent emails to the board. Everybody I think knows how I feel at, as it relates to sports. I think we should move forward. We have 17,000 plus students in the school district. We decided to go virtual because of the risk of students being in brick and mortar. Being outside, what do we have? Like 168. How many athletes do we have in the fall? I look at a number. Does anybody know how many athletes we have?
I think I read 168, Lisa, something like that.
Okay, so we have 168 athletes. I don't think we have the board.
Ms. Conover, you're kind of going in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, I don't think we as a board has a right to make that decision for our students, our high school students especially, who have worked very hard for this opportunity. I don't think that we have a right to say that, okay, we're gonna cancel sports, or we're gonna have St. Luke's come in and give you an exercise regimen, and then we'll try it again in the spring. That's unrealistic. That's placating. That's crap, in my opinion. And pardon me, because I feel really strong about this. I think that our students are, first of all, let's say every student that plays in our district or plays sports, they're not there because somebody made them join the team. They're there because they chose to join the team. So they're going to do, especially after being in quarantine, they're going to do any and everything they have to do to maintain, be safe, and to win. And for us to sit around at a table and to say, I want to keep them safe, so let's cancel it, I don't think it's fair. And I think that as a board, that we should allow our students to play all. If the PIAA says it's up to the school districts to make the decision, let's make the decision. Let's make the right decision. Let them play the sports. And I'm a parent, and I have kids that play. And I know there are some risks. But you know what? What am I going to do? Lock them up all day? We have to give them that opportunity to actually stay safe and play the game. And just like Randy Atia said, when we send them out on those fields, we don't know if they're going to make it back at the end of the game, but they're putting everything that they got into it. And we need to support them. They're doing their part. Let us do our part. I said it. Thank you for being concerned, but I'm a parent and I'm sending my kid out there. You know me, I'll come in a building with a shield on and a mask. But let them play. What's going to happen when you tell them no fall sports and everybody's home? Do you think they're going to stay in the house when they're not in school? What they're going to do is they're going to sit around and they're going to blame us for not allowing them to be all that they can be. So that's my plea to the board and to all those who are you trying to look out for us, but to me, it's not a help, it's a hindrance.
Thank you, Ms. Conover. Ms. Wilt, I see your hand is up.
Thank you, Madam President. Mrs. Conover spoke very eloquently along the same lines as myself. I just wanted to echo her comments and Randy Atia's comments in that there's so many more enriching things to sports than just playing the game. And for our ASD students, I concur that sometimes that is more important to our kids than the actual game. Some of our kids come to every practice every day and never actually make it off the bench, but they're there because they're building a sense of family, a sense of pride, relationships with adults that they may or may not have in their life elsewhere. And I just want to say that I am on board, like Mrs. Conover. I think we should let the kids play. I understand the risks. Believe me when I tell you, this has kept me up at night. When I ran for school board, I never thought we'd be making decisions like these. And we are not the experts, and I appreciate all of the effort that everyone has put into providing us with the information so we can try and make the best work, the best bad decision, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I've come to realize there are no good decisions living in the land of COVID. But I just want to be on record also as saying that I support option number 2 and letting our kids move forward and playing with the delay as listed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilt. Ms. Johnson-Watts?
So I am of the mindset that we should allow our students to participate as fully as possible in sports, whatever that option is. It looks like it's been narrowed down because of geography, you know, which nearby districts can we actually compete with, so on. But as full as possible. And here's why. Few key things I think we need to start having in our conversations. As many medical experts as I've listened to, I've heard people talk about vaccines. I have not heard anyone talking about eradicating this virus. So at some point, we have to begin to build, understanding that life has changed. Dramatically, yes, but it has changed. Why rebuild with this particular group of students? I would not suggest the entire school district learn to rebuild by sending everyone into classrooms right now. I would definitely not. And I want to make that very clear because I don't want people to collapse the conversation about sports participation with going into the classrooms. 2 separate conversations. Here's why. Children are not mandated to join a team. Children choose to be on a team. Parents are required to provide medical clearance through a certified physician. You just can't show up and say, "Let me in, coach." You must have a certified doctor's note, and you must have a signed permission slip from your guardian. This is an entirely separate group of students. Now, some may say, you're just saying that because they're athletes and everybody always favors athletes. Well, guess what? let's be very clear about what athletes do, the regimens that they maintain, the lifestyle that they subject themselves to in order to be excellent athletes. This is not a story about preference. This is about a profile that may or may not be able to take certain levels of activity. So I just want to make that very, very clear. I want to make sure that when people walk away from this conversation and look at this years later, that they understand where I'm coming from and where I think others may come from as well, as it pertains to why this particular type of student and not all students. So that being said, I am of the mindset that I know that any child is given the opportunity to participate is going to do what they have to do to comply with the requirements to be able to continue to participate. It's not as simple as walking down the hall and you're saying, hey, where's your mask? No, you are on a field of play. There are a number of requirements for what you do and how you do, and those things are going to be monitored closely. It's a small group of students. The list goes on and on if you'd like for me to elaborate offline. But what I do want to say tonight is that I'm for the full access to play, because I understand we have health monitoring conditions in place. We have requirements in place. Our sports personnel will want the privilege of knowing that they have served our students properly in this situation. So I want to hear, before we vote, we'll hear all of the options once again, but I'm of the mindset that as much opportunity as we can provide, let us do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Watts. Ms. Vega?
So first, of course, I want to say thank you to everyone who put this together to give us as much of information as possible. Like it was said earlier, I never thought I'd become an Allentown School Board Director and have to make this decision. Extremely difficult. You'll say yes and you'll make some people upset. You'll say no, you'll make some people upset. Everything that everyone said, I agree with. On the other hand, I also agree with the safety of the children. So two questions. A, does this decision have to be made today? That's the first question. And then the second question is can't we ask the parents of those athletes? And if you have enough athletes, then you move forward. Those are my two questions.
So I'm going to ask Falco to tag in and help me with the first question. So if you look under option 2, tennis starts next week, cross country starts in a couple of weeks, and then the other sports start later. So I'd say for the low contact sports, that decision is kind of a right now decision. But for the high contact sports, there's a bit more time before that decision has to be made in terms of start. The pause there, however, is the conference has made their decision as of today that they're going to move forward, and they're developing schedules. I think they're, as we speak, developing schedules that that Allentown is the last district that either opts in or opts out of the schedule, and then they'll have to develop their schedule based on it. So the timeline is, there is time before sports start, but the timeline in terms of working with our conference to ensure that we're on the schedule, I don't think there's a lot of space there. So athletic team, am I accurate there? And I'll say before they chime in, I absolutely hear, value, and support everything that's being said. Like I said at the top, we have to have the meaningful dialogue as a leadership body, and there are no wrong decisions. I think every decision is the right decision based on, you know, your perspective and where you see, understand, and value. So I appreciate everybody's perspective, and I hate as a superintendent that you have to be in a position to have to make this decision. But so athletic team, am I accurate on that with the scheduling issue? Or did I miss something?
Mr. Parker, yeah, the schedules, as David mentioned, they're waiting for an ASD to put the stamp on the schedules. There's also the piece about the PIAA. So many practices need to occur before efficient practices before a competition.
But if that's the case, then why is this being brought to the board today so that we can vote on it publicly today? Why wasn't it given to us at the last meeting or before? Because obviously we were going to have questions.
As I said earlier, this has been a topic and an issue for all EAP schools for the last several weeks. Things have changed dramatically in the last 36 hours regarding competition. And this is kind of where we stand at this point. Several schools in our EPC had agreed to certain competitions, and things have changed. And this is where we are at this point.
Yeah, I'm just going to chime in real quick. I know Mr. Falco answered the question for Director Vega. And we do need 15. So there has to be, according to the PIAA, there has to be 15 days of practice prior to competition. So, you know, while you see the competition dates are a little bit further out there for some of the sports, we still need to have an answer now. In addition to the 15 days, we need kids to get physicals. And we've been pretty hesitant to ask our families to go pay for physicals before we actually have an answer. You know, I'd hate to see our families go pay for physicals and then, you know, we turn around and tell them they're not playing. So that's kind of why we're here asking for an answer now. And also just in terms of the schedules, yeah, the league does have a schedule ready to go with Allentown School District on it, and it has a schedule ready to go with Allentown School District off of it. So they need to make that public starting tomorrow. Most likely it'll come out either way. But that just kind of speaks to why, you know, this decision needs to be made now. But I understand this is, as you said in your opening statement there, this is not an easy decision for anybody to make.
It's not an easy decision, and getting these options right now in this moment and making a decision right now in this moment makes it even worse.
Linda, we did receive this, the documentation for this yesterday at noon. Just I don't know if you missed that or if you.
I did absolutely miss that, and I did check my email, and I absolutely missed this. So there's no way to. So for the athletic department, so are you guys confident that you're gonna have 15 or more players, like you said, say yes, with the parents saying, yes, I want my kids to play?
Can I speak on that? So far, we've had the kids that have been working out voluntary practices, their parents have signed off for them to be here at our workouts all summer. They had to have a parent sign off for them to be part of our workouts with the expectations that there would be a season. So I would be confident that the kids that are coming, their parents signed off on them to be here with the expectations of playing. They would sign off on them playing in competition.
Okay, that was helpful. Thank you.
Great. Ms. Harris, I see your hand is up.
Yes, I wanted to go back to Linda was saying with the urgency. Why is it urgency? We have to go by the fact that the governor just gave us, information to play or not to play because the districts will decide that. Then we had to go to wait for a PIAA to decide what they wanted.
Right.
And so now we have got this on our plate because this is when we got it. So that's why we have to do it like this. I just want to make sure that I'm just going by what everybody else said. I concur with it all. I don't need to say anything more, but the fact that I really want our children to play. And as well as what PIAA sport, you got to remember that Rob has an RBI program, baseball program, that they use Jay Borney Crum, which is not a part of PAA, but it's still our athletes. We want to make sure that they get to play too as well. So I'm asking you to include that on our vote for all athletes to play.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Ms. Conover, your hand is up next.
Yes, I was gonna actually say a little bit of what Phoebe said. Linda, I have had, because you made a comment about parents, like can we include the parents? Parents are hitting my phone right now as we speak because they couldn't wait for this day because they want their kids to play. I happen to have a kid who played every sport there was almost except football, it seems like, since she's been in ASD. And you build relationships. And we had to wait to find out if there were going to be sports at all. That just came down the pike. And there were some emails, and I know we're all busy. It's crazy, not to take away from what you're doing, because sometimes I get to my emails. Sometimes you guys include me in. But there were emails that were sent back and forth that was letting us know that this was coming down the pike. So now that PIA finally said, okay, you know what, you guys can move forward, but we're going to leave it up to the school districts. That kind of like throws a monkey wrench in the situation. We want our kids to be at an advantage, not a disadvantage. And again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. For us as a district or board to say they can't play or this student is not going to meet their goal for graduation in terms of sports wise, because of we want them to be safe and not giving them the opportunity to actually be safe and follow protocols, that's putting them at a disadvantage. So I hope I answered your question. I'm passionate about this. No parent, and I'm gonna speak as a parent, no parent sends their kid out to get COVID, okay? But my kid is going, not to get COVID, but I'm a parent who I thought about it. I've had discussions with my children. I've had discussions with other people's kids and families, and we're good with it. So I hope that helped. I understand where you are, but I hope that helps.
I appreciate that.
I think it's Mr. Miller, you're next. Your hand up.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm in full support of option 2 to move forward with the proposed EPC plan. I would agree, Nancy. I mean, this is a really tough decision. The balance between the safety and our students. The sports can't understate the impact that sports has on students. The structure, the responsibility of showing up. It's not just about playing the game. I do think that we need to, take all the risk mitigation procedures as possible, but I do believe that we should follow option 2, being that, the state and PIAA has put the decision on us. I think that's the best route for us right now. Regardless of our decision, I will make the amendment for Central Catholic. They decided to play no matter what our decision is, and for them to use our stadium as we have a contract in place. So I will motion to uphold our half of that contract. So that's it.
Is that, Mr. Parker, just a question on that? Is that a question for whether or not we would hold a contract? Just so I know if Mr. Miller needs to officially make that amendment to the resolution so that it's official that we have if we have the contract, does the contract stand for Central Catholic?
Yeah, so the contract stands unless there's action by the board to limit outside activity of district facilities. To this point, there has not been specific action, which means that contractual obligation still stands. So I don't think the motion is necessary, but absolutely it can be an addition that gives a significant level of comfort that the district will uphold that obligation.
Okay, just so you have that information, Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're welcome. So I sent the board information, you know, about how I feel about the sports, and I'm just going to say it publicly. Clearly, it's the other side of where most of the board members are. I can't say that I feel comfortable letting our kids play sports less than 6 feet apart from each other without masks on against kids from other districts. Our teams have done an amazing job, clearly, of keeping our kids safe within our school district boundaries through their practicing and meeting as their little cohorts in their teams. What concerns me is when we now go and play against other districts who may not be fully virtual and may be hybrid. And you're now putting our children at risk from those kids who have been in schools. You don't know what they're doing in their school district. On paper, they may say one thing, but you don't know what's actually going on behind those doors. So I just don't feel comfortable saying that our kids will be playing against another team from another school district. What I would hope, and this is for high and moderate risk, low risk, they can play, but the high and moderate risk are the ones that I have the problem with. What I hope is that our coaches are able to find creative ways to keep practicing with our children so they don't lose skills. So I'm not saying they can't practice. Continue to practice and play against each other. And also work to build portfolios so that when colleges come looking for kids, they have something to show them. If major colleges are stopping sports for the fall, there's no doubt in my mind that recruiting for future classes is going to look different over the next couple years. So when I hear our kids are put at a disadvantage, I hear what you're saying, but I also see that colleges are stopping, so they understand what's going on. I echo what Mr. Parker said. I am disheartened that the PIAA has placed a loss of revenue over our children's health. And this is not a decision we should be making. This is a decision that PIAA should have made for every district so that no child is left out of playing whatever sport it is they want to make or whatever sport they want to play. But the fact that money is placed over our kids' health is what I have a huge issue with. And so I'm personally going to go with medical advice. Medical advice says if you're unmasked and within 6 feet of someone, your chances of catching COVID is increased. My conscience does not allow me to say I'm going to put a child at risk because they're going to play sports. So I just want to say that. Mr. Thiel, or I'm sorry, Ms. Harris, your hand was up.
Yes, I was wanted to know, with testing being free, can we add that on to an amendment that the high risk athletes get tested weekly?
Mr. Falco, what's the current? Forgive me for not remembering the details of the health and safety plan. What's the current cycle? I think the answer to that is yes, but I want to make sure what's in our current cycle.
Our athletes are pre-screened every day, before every single practice.
But that's a pre-screening. I think Ms. Harris is talking specifically about an actual test. When you do the screening, is that a full test?
It is not a test. I'm not sure if I totally understand.
So,
I'm sorry, what would be your request?
so Ms. Harris, so I think the answer to that is give me an opportunity. Actually, Mr. Freund may be on. I would say the answer to that may have a foot in the legal world in terms of whether the school district can mandate an actual test for a student once a week. I don't know that answer specifically. John, if you know that answer offhand, you can let us know. If not, we can absolutely research it and find out legally what the school district's flexibility is there in terms of mandating tests.
I think, Mr. Parker, can you hear me? I don't see my little light on.
Yeah, then we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that is a problem legally. It may be a problem from the point of view of whether or not tests are available to the district that will have sufficient turnaround time to be meaningful. But certainly, if the board wishes to, adopt one of these options, can certainly add that it's conditioned upon an aggressive program of prevention and making sure that the CDC guidelines and so forth are strictly followed. But I think it's more of a question of the availability of the test rather than the legal ability to administer.
Who are the health partners that were with our sport?
St. Luke's.
St. Luke's. So they would be able to administer the test and keep, private and things of that nature.
Yeah. So again, I hear you. I think if Mr. Freund help me out again, I think if you were to add something to the resolution that was, testing pending a confirmation of the district's legal ability to do so, just because I want to make sure that we follow all privacy laws and our students are kind of well protected with any kind of testing and the sharing of that information. I just want to make, for any kid, for any reason, make sure that we're absolutely solid before we commit to taking that route.
Mr. Parker, is it okay if I just jump in here about the pre-screen process?
No, Mr. Atia, because this is specific to testing, so I want to stay on testing.
You got it.
Great, thank you. Mr. Thiel, your hand is up.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts here. First of all, from a personal level, and I don't talk about it now that I'm 54 years old, but having been very involved with sports in high school and even playing with broken bones and not allowing my parents to x-ray them, as a child growing up, had a great impact on me, in which there's no question that and it's already been said, and I'm not going to belabor that point. The obvious is the opportunity for our children to play sports, and I do support that. It's about how to mitigate the risk, and clearly, and Mr. Parker, thank you for your leadership in articulating the lack of leadership from the state in providing that leadership that they should have provided. So if it's not going to come from the state government or the PIAA, and it's being pushed around locally, now we're looking at being as a member of the EPC, and we're thinking about testing, screening, et cetera, and we're talking about the more higher contact sports. What can, as a conference, we do to create an equal playing field in terms of testing, or I should say even just screening, and then the actual mitigation steps that will be taken, which will be mutually agreed upon by each member in the EPC. So I think, that would be one of my questions for Mr. Parker, for you and Mr. Falco and the staff. Is that have been a conversation that has gone on in terms of the EPC coming up with certain guidelines that would help, have an agreement between all the different districts?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I know that
Mr. Falco, you have a little bit of an echo.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I know that Sarah Jane had mentioned it too. Yes, there's been conversation between the athletic trainers to create commonalities across each of our EPC partners and making sure there are certain standards that we all abide by. Because, as you stated, if we're doing some things to ensure our student safety, and another district, let's say, is not, that puts our kids at risk, and we certainly don't want to do that. Amy Cotter, I can't tell if you're still on or not, but I know we had that conversation yesterday or today.
So tennis starts August 31st. It is August 27th. Is that an ongoing conversation with an actual deadline and objective to be completed before that?
It's ongoing right now.
So I'll say in defense of EPC, everything that I've seen thus far has been really focused on ensuring that kids are as safe as possible. So without question, I will give them kudos there. Our athletic team, our athletic trainers are doing everything to keep kids safe. I think the EPC also is in that space. I'll find out the question about testing, because I think there are some other legalities around student privacy there that I want to make sure we don't kind of step into. I know that our health and safety plan has all the protocols in place to keep our kids safe, but that extra layer of security that I think I hear from Mr. Thiel as well as from Ms. Harris, we'll circle back on that extra layer of safety and security to ensure, A, to identify what we have the capacity to do, and then B, to ensure that every possible procedure is in place.
Mr. Parker, the one thing I would advise is that we don't make any of these options conditional upon something that we're not absolutely sure we can fulfill. So
I don't think there should be any conditions. Wait, I'll wait my turn because I'm not done.
That's what I was suggesting, that you don't put conditions on it at this point, because the worst thing we could do is say condition upon testing every week or what have you, and then not be able to accomplish that.
Yeah. Thank you. That makes sense. And again, it's something we can investigate and make sure that and communicate back what the options are moving forward in terms of just what the legal space is. And again, I'll say to each and every one of you as you're having this conversation, I value everybody's opinion and perspective in this dialogue. It's a meaningful dialogue. It was the elephant in the room dialogue that had to happen. And I think everybody has the right to be on whichever side of the aisle there is. And ultimately, everybody is in their own space looking to do what's best for kids. And I think that's what's important. And again, because I'm not done taking the shots I need to take, I detest that you all have to be in a position to make this decision in addition to the multitude of other decisions that you have to make to support the children here in the Allentown School District. It is a heavy decision. So I appreciate each of you for being engaged.
All right, Ms. Vega, you're next.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions, wasn't sure really who to address it to. Sarah, you had said that colleges put their sports on hold for this season. Was that right?
Yes, not all, but some colleges did.
Okay. And the NFL also has put the preseason on hold. Do we know what our COVID numbers are here in the Lehigh Valley?
I don't have a number on me. Dr. Brown or Ms. Polik, do you have any sense of where we are at the present moment?
Can we go to the graphic that was presented earlier this evening?
Thanks, Cheryl. I thought I saw something earlier.
So we'll get to that. Go ahead. You want to go to your next question, or we get that?
No, I'm just listening and just really struggling. I never sit here and make a decision based off of what I feel. I always make a decision based off what the community tells me. And it's so split. And I'm just trying to really just soak in as much information as I can.
Okay. Let's just hope this.
It's quiet. You guys been hear from me while you guys have been sitting doing nothing?
Yeah.
Ms. Conover, you can.
Okay, so the question that I have is when we were talking about testing, I wanted to hear from Atia because Phoebe made a comment and said something about, can we get the kids tested every week? And Atia started talking about, what am I trying to say?
Safety
About, say it again?
Screening.
Screenings.
Screening, right. I want to talk about screening because what happens is we don't want to make our kids, I mean, we don't want to get crazy either. I mean, don't we take temperatures? We have St. Luke's willing to do training. How come we can't have them assisting us in making this situation safe? I'm feeling now, and this is just out of all honesty, that this conversation is really being geared towards not letting our kids play, and we're doing a commercial for not letting them play instead of actually hearing from parents and hearing from people who are supportive of them playing.
So can I respond? Can I respond
Yes,
to
you
that?
can. Yes, you
If
can.
if I wanted to gear the conversation to not letting the kids play, my ADs would not be on this call because I knew where they stood this morning. I knew where they stood last week. So if my intention was to steer the conversation in a certain direction, I would have left Atia, I would have left him at home because I knew where they were. But the conversation has to be balanced. And that's why they're here to give a perspective. I'm going to give a perspective. We're going to bring data so that you all can have a balanced conversation. And there are different perspectives and multiple perspectives, and they all have value and they all have a meaningful place at the table. And what I appreciate most is when we get to disagree without being disagreeable, and everybody gets to bring that perspective. Now, where Atia was going is what's already in our health and safety plan that was approved by the board, that's in place for every student. Absolutely, there's value to that conversation. Where Ms. Harris asked was, in addition to what we're already doing, is it plausible that we have another layer with kind of a testing once a week? So I can explore that, but I think that's different from the protocols that we already currently have in place for kids, which is why I kind of moved that conversation along to specifically address testing, because those live in different spaces. But steering the conversation, I think I've been clear on where I stand with this for a couple of weeks.
Okay, so let's X out steering the car. Let's act like I didn't say that. I'll take that back. So let's not automatically assume that everybody that's in this space that's listening, not just the panelists, but I'm talking about the attendees as well. Let's not automatically assume that we are clear as to what protocols are in place for protecting our children. Because how can we talk about testing if we're not talking about what we're already doing?
But we talked about that when the board approved the health and safety plan. So we can go over it again if that's the request. But
absolutely, because I want the board as well as the community to have an understanding that we are striving to keep our kids safe. I don't want people to get caught up, because when you talk about COVID and you talk about people dying, people tend to say, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't let them play. You understand? And that's not what I'm trying. I've thought about it. I'm a board member, but I'm a parent too. And I've thought about it. Several parents have thought about it. And I don't see, I need folks to be considered in this, not just us. I need folks to be considered in this, not just because some people are afraid. Let's ruin the kids' lives. Let's just not let them have sports. I don't agree with that. So I'm gonna leave it alone for the moment.
So I just found that we had 600, this is from Ms. Vega. We had 620 new cases yesterday in the state of Pennsylvania. I think that's what you were looking for. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so there were 620 new cases yesterday per what Representative Schlossberg posted this morning.
Yeah, I think Dr. Brown has something coming up now.
And just, I know you guys answered this, mentioned this earlier, but there's been a lot of conversation. So I'm just going to ask. The health officials here are recommending that we don't move forward, or they're just providing us information.
So I'll think, and I'll kind of punt this to Falco again. I think the health officials have been squarely in the space of providing information I think in some conversations there have been some, well, I don't think you can move forward at this type conversation, but they've kind of stayed clear of giving full direction to school districts, and rightfully so, because then they own the accountability for school districts moving forward or not if they make that recommendation. So I think most of the health officials have stayed clear of making an outright recommendation to school districts, and allowed the districts to kind of look at the information that they have, and then make their decision moving forward.
You're exactly correct. You're exactly correct, Mr. Parker.
It's a hot potato. Nobody wants to catch the hot potato. So the local school boards are the ones that catch the potato in their lap.
Mr. Miller, your hand is up.
I was going to make a motion if there's not any other comments or discussion on this.
There's not, unless, is there anything else with the map that's up that we need to know? Oh, Ms. Johnson-Watts, your hand is up.
I just want to emphasize that the children are not being mandated to participate in sports. The children are choosing and expressing the interest in sports after being informed on the news and all of these other resources as to what has been happening across the country and here in our area related to COVID-19. In addition to that, as always, you must have medical clearance. In addition to that, as always, you must have guardian approval signed And I am entrusting our teams to make sure that all of those provisions are being taken with the utmost clarity and verification.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson-Watts. Mr. Miller, if you want to make your motion, feel free. Oh, Ms. Wilt, your hand is, nope. Okay, Mr. Miller, if you want to make your motion, go ahead.
I would make the motion to move forward with option 2 with the addition of the following. That the district makes a best faith effort to explore weekly testing if allowed legally, and exploring potential local healthcare partners. Second, being that we uphold Central Catholic's contract regardless of any future ASD sports decision. And third, requesting a letter sent by the district to the EPC that they also explore weekly or some kind of routine testing for their sports.
Okay. So, Mr. Freund, is that motion good?
No, that's
I'll just make clear that, and Mr. Miller, the sense of your motion is not that approval is conditional upon testing.
Correct.
That it be explored.
Correct. It's a best faith effort. Yep.
Yeah, the best faith effort is important.
Yeah,
Yes.
then, Madam President, I think that that's okay. I would strongly recommend against any strict conditions applying, but the ones that Mr. Miller said, I think are appropriate and would serve the district.
Okay, so
I
there's a,
second it.
okay, so there's a motion by Mr. Miller, seconded by Ms. Conover.
Conover, without any what Freund said, any strict conditions.
Yeah, so the motion on the floor is for option 2, which is to allow all sports on the already modified schedule, with adding in that the district will make a best faith effort for weekly testing, that the Central Catholic contract is upheld regardless of our decision, and that we send a letter to the EPC for them to look into weekly testing to make a best faith effort for weekly testing of all athletes. Am I correct, Mr. Miller and Ms. Conover?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Madam President.
Explore. We want to use the word explore though, right, Freund?
Yes, I would say that we're going to make the best faith efforts to explore the possibility of weekly testing. The way you stated it, Madam President, sounds like it's conditional. I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay. So we're making a best faith effort to explore the possibility of weekly testing.
Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
You're good with that, Mr. Miller, Ms. Conover, the first and second for the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because this is a new business item, if we should let the public comment on it. I guess I should have done that before the motion, Mr. Freund, right?
No, before the vote's fine.
Okay. So if anybody from the public would like to comment on what we're about to vote on, I do see somebody's hand up. Addie Conover.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, just please state your name and address for the record.
Ade Conover. My address is 110 West Federal Street.
Okay, and you have 3 minutes.
What did you say?
You have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, I would like to say I'm from Darragh High School. I'm a senior and I play a lot of sports, probably more sports than you can count on two hands. I'm currently playing a fall sport, and I would like to add that the board and many other folks in this town or whatever, their main focus is to get our ASD students to the next level of education. And I feel as though these sports are a lot of these kids' way of doing so. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm saying, but a lot of people don't have the money to afford colleges like that, and a lot of people go to sports to do so. But if we cancel these sports, and I seen one of the options was that we'll have it in the springtime. But if all the other school districts aren't canceling them, who are we going to be competing against? And if we are competing, we're not competing against the best, and that's not looking good on any type of transcript at all. So I just feel as though it shouldn't be canceled. It should be the parents it should be the parents' choices, because again, we can't, y'all main focus is to advocate for the children, but that's also what the parents' main focus are as well. And I feel like we are old enough to have a voice, and I think that we shouldn't cancel it. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sharon Billington.
Hi. I thought it was very well said by Mr. Parker about the inequity found in sports in our urban schools. And this is especially now brought to everybody's attention under these current COVID situation. We, though, as Allentown, I think should look at it another way. Not that we're wanting to do sports, but that we care more about each and every child than about parents living vicariously through their kids or other misguided priorities. Numerous families are multi-generational. This child's going to come in contact with people that they haven't come in contact in their practice group with. We don't know what the other schools are doing and how diligent they will be. As far as testing, whether we test our kids or not, if the other schools aren't doing it, it's not going to matter. And as far as the socialization and the competition aspect, it will not be what it was. And going ahead with contact sports will still not allow our kids to have that experience that they are missing, whether they play or not. I'd rather have my child and my family healthy than have them score a touchdown and end up in the hospital. Make the decision. And yes, I understand that we take that risk every day when we allow our children to play certain sports, but that is with that child singularly, that is affecting them. If that child contacts COVID, it's going to spread to numerous others. So yes, we take that personal risk, but now we're going to have to assume that risk for everyone who's in contact with our child. And as a parent, yes, my child and myself may be able to come to that decision that if something physical happens to them, we'll have to deal with it or we accept that risk. But as a parent, I would not feel very good about the fact that my child contracted it and then spread it to someone else. So we need to make the decision that is right and safe for all. And when it comes to children, I always err on the side of caution. And unfortunately, those 168 students could mean over 1,000+ infections for other kids and families. We maybe could look at the low risk sports as a trial to see what competition really looks like. And if we do approve those fall sports and get put on a schedule, have 15 days worth of practice, but then have to drop out, what are the consequences if we do drop out before competition starts? Does this cause ASD to have to pay a fine or lose standing for next year's sports? So I think there's, again, a bigger picture we have to look at. But again, this should have been a unilateral Commonwealth decision so that the playing field would actually be level for all of our students in all of our schools at all of the same time. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Next is Ed White.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My daughter,
If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Edward John White, 1922 West Highland Street, Allentown, PA, 18104.
Thank you.
I'm a board member of the Allentown School District Education Foundation and the PTA at William Allen, PTSA at William Allen and Trexler Middle School and Muhlenberg Elementary School. My daughter is a 2013 graduate of William Allen High School, where Shannon Mayfield was her principal, and she received an excellent education at William Allen. She was recruited in 3 sports after playing 5 sports at Allen, and she would not have received the opportunity to play at the top academic universities in the country had she not participated in sports at William Allen. I strongly support allowing the decision by the school board to approve this, reopening sports for Allentown School District students. Let the kids play and let the decision up to the parents. It should be the parents who make these decisions for whether the COVID-19 risks outweigh the benefits of allowing their children to play in sports, not the school district. The school district is here to allow opportunity for children in the Allentown School District. And I firmly believe that the Allentown School District should support all students in the Allentown School District, regardless of zip code or ethnicity or race, and that this gives students of color particularly the opportunity to get a great college education. My daughter graduated as president of her class with an unweighted 4.0 GPA and was recruited by schools from the Ivy League to the Patriot League to the University Athletic Association and the Liberty League because of her excellent academic record and her athletic success at William Allen. Without sports, she might not have attended the University of Rochester, where she succeeded not only in the classroom, graduating as Phi Beta Kappa graduate, but also as a multi-sport athlete in field hockey and softball, where she received honors in both sports as a Liberty League student athlete on the All Liberty League teams for both athletics and academics. She was an all-league player in both sports and participated in the national championship tournaments in both sports at the highest level of Division III athletics, all because she was allowed to participate in sports at the high school level at William Allen in what was then the Lehigh Valley Conference. She was a scholar athlete, president of her class, and a 5-sport athlete at Allen, including 4 varsity sports and 13 varsity letters, all of which led directly to her success as a student athlete in college. I urge you to vote yes for allowing sports to continue in the Allentown School District. Join the other schools in the Eastern Pennsylvania Conference, which have approved allowing kids to play sports this fall with reasonable accommodations and protocols for safety of the students, and allow parents to attend to watch their kids play, allowing social distancing, safety protocols for disinfection and safety. And I urge you to vote yes for this, for let the students play, let the parents decide whether the benefits outweigh the risks. Thank you for listening to my opinions and have a great night.
Thank you, Ed. Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion from board members?
Yes, I wanted to make sure I include that the Allen baseball RBI is a part of the athlete playing. The RBI program at William Allen. Because that's not part of PIAA.
Okay, so you would have to make an amendment to the motion then. Correct, Mr. Freund?
I didn't understand what Ms. was saying.
Okay, William Allen, they have an RBI baseball program that they do a big J. Bernie Crum. That is not PIAA. That's separate from that.
Is that an interscholastic sport?
Yes, but we just want to make sure that's included.
So if
well, I think I'd defer to the athletic directors.
So
Mr. Parker?
if I could, so that is, and y'all give me a nod if I believe, more of an intramural type sport. We have a number of sports that operate in the city, and some of them are, city and school district are independent operations. So is the ask that just that one continue, or that all kind of intramural sport leagues that are engaged continue? I guess we need some direction in terms of what you're looking for specific to that organization.
I want only that organization that goes with the Allen ASP. I'm only asking for that one.
Yeah. And so help me out. I don't believe we run that organization, but we allow them to use our facilities. I know way more about sports over the last month. Come on, Atia, I'm ready.
I remember that RBI program helped get that field done. There's the ones that helped get that baseball field.
So I think the issue is, as of now, our athletic fields, similar to the city having closed their facilities for external groups, our district facilities have been closed for external groups as well. The only people using district facilities have been, our student athletes in their practice and preparation, et cetera, et cetera. So the request is to allow this group to utilize district facilities for practice and or games?
Yes. At J. Bernie Crum.
Because this motion is about PIAA and our high school sports, can that be something different?
You might want to consider this as a separate motion and not really
Right.
germane, but it certainly could be taken up separately.
Yeah, I would agree.
So Ms. Harris, are you okay waiting for that motion until after we discuss this motion? And you can make your own motion
Okay.
so that that's not tied to our high school sports.
I don't know. Mr. Tia, what do you think?
Ms. Harris, like Mr. Parker said, at this point, I think, the issue is because the RBI program is not an actual ASD sponsored sport. It's not a PIAA issue. I don't know that I can give clearance to allow them to use the field at this point. I don't think
I just
that's
want to know what you said.
okay.
Okay, good enough.
Thank you.
Then I will, I'll take that amendment off the table.
Okay, is there any other discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Brace,
No.
Ms. Conover,
Absolutely, yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
No.
7-2 passes.
Okay. Ms. Harris, are you taking that completely off the table or do you want to make it now?
Yeah, you want to make it now?
Okay.
Okay, I want to make the motion that the RBI program at William Allen be allowed to use the J. Burley Crumb Field for their games and practices.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, I just want the Allen's RBI baseball team to be able to use our J. Burley Crumb Field for their games and practice.
So Ms. Harris made the motion, Mr. Thiel seconded it. Ms. Johnson Watts, I see your hand is raised for discussion.
Yes, this is new to me. So can someone tell me a little bit more about the relationship that's been established with the district? And what is it that they have in mind in terms of calendar? I just can't say that in a vacuum, yes or no. I don't know very much.
Well, you know that the J. Burley Crumb baseball field was totally redone. That was because of the RBI. They applied for their grant and they got baseball. Mr. T, you can go ahead and explain a little bit more.
So if I could, I'm gonna tag Mr. Atia out here. And I want to tag myself and Mr. Falco in just
thank you
to level. And then we'll bring Atia in. So I think the issue is a building use issue. And I want to kind of start there because this is one of a number of athletic programs that utilize our practice on or play games on ASD facilities. So this is one of a number. Allen has some, Deer have some that utilize ASD facilities through a number of partnerships, some more formal, some less formal in place. So I want to just kind of start there at the high level that when you go down this route, know that this is one organization, and then next week you're going to have 3 or 4 more organizations asking for the same consideration, because right now we blanket disallowed any outside groups. So from a safety perspective, from a usage perspective, to limit the outside usage of ASD facilities. I think this is kind of similar to where Mr. Miller had the conversation a minute ago about Central Catholic, or is it Catholic Central?
Central.
Central Catholic. So that conversation, that's a more formalized contractual obligation. I think most of the others are less formalized, but are still important to those organizations. So to give some wide context before we dive into this group specific, know that it's a significantly more global conversation about the district's building use policy as it relates to engaging outside groups right now. And when you move from athletic groups, then it's the same conversation for buildings and other community groups that want to use the schools. So I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm just saying it's a more broad conversation in terms of context. Now Falco and Randy, in terms of this specific organization, can you speak to that? I just wanted to give the context first.
Yeah, the grant, the RBI grant through the National Baseball League, sponsored the renovation of the baseball and softball fields at Allen High School. The baseball coach at Allen High School, wrote the grant for money to three organizations. As far as an organization, it's not necessarily an organization, it was a grant to update the facility.
So if I could just remain on the question that I raised as part of the discussion, I'm just wondering if we don't have time to prepare for this type of motion and have that type of information available from a building and stadium committee perspective. I don't know when the next one is coming up, but I just feel as though it wouldn't be fair to that organization for me to make a decision at this time without truly knowing what's involved. And I wouldn't want to go in one direction or the other without having given them a full review.
Without them, we would not have had a baseball field. Without them, they wouldn't have been able to renovate that baseball field and actually have a baseball field and a softball field. It wouldn't have happened. Because of their connection with the Major League Baseball, that's the reason why we got the grant that we got.
And I'll say to Ms. Harris's point,
our students.
To Ms. Harris's point, they have been dynamic partners, and we do, once we resolve our own athletic conundrums, we do need to revisit building use, and I think set some parameters around who and how are going to be in and out of our facilities.
Absolutely.
I personally will be abstaining from this vote because I don't want to be forced into a decision that I'm not ready to make. And I do not want to go on record in either direction.
Okay, so I can take it off the motion, I can take it off the floor, because I want everybody to be okay with it and understand it completely. So I will table it for now. And we will come back and I'll get the information. We'll get the information from the athletic directors and Mr. Falco, and we'll present it to the board. Or they'll present it to the board.
All right, Ms. Freund, help me out here. She
Yes,
said she
it
tabled
sounds
it.
like the motion's withdrawn and the seconder also withdraw his second. And
so the seconder is speaking. Is that okay, Madam President?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Theo.
Thank you. Phoebe, if I can make a recommendation, instead of tabling this specific motion, that we would take all facility use to the committee co-chairs. maybe building would be the appropriate one. I mean, I would defer that to Sarah as president to decide which one and work with the administration, then bring that back out through the process with co-chairs, committee of the whole, et cetera. Because it is a larger conversation, as Mr. Parker said, and it needs to be addressed more comprehensively. So it's going to take a little more time to do that.
Okay.
So Mr. Thiel, are you pulling your second?
I am.
Okay. All right. So both motions have been pulled, and we'll send this to the building committee to look at. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Here, is that the stadium committee or the building committee?
Oh, I forgot about the stadium committee. It should go to the stadium committee.
So,
Sure. I don't know who would normally do our outside organization contract. Because this was specific to J. Bernie Crum, but we have organizations that might ask to use Deer's fields.
So it's a facility use is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah,
so
so
that's stadiums, fields, buildings, etc. So it encompasses everything.
So is that under policy, Mr. Parker, or is that under?
I would send it to building committee and then have the building committee refer to or communicate with policy and stadium committee as necessary. Because the building would be the overall umbrella, but then the offshoots can be communicated to other groups.
Thank you.
Okay. Great. All right. Is there any other new business? Ms. Wilt?
Pardon me. I was eating a piece of popcorn. Let me put my video on. I would like to take a moment to make a motion to ask the administration to reevaluate the logistics of providing our LCTI enrolled students with the option of exploring attending LCTI as part of the hybrid model.
Second.
Was that you, Mr. Thiel?
Yes.
All right. Did everybody hear the motion?
Yes.
Say it again.
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to for the administration to reevaluate providing our LCTI students that are our LCTI enrolled students the option of attending LCTI in the hybrid model.
Okay, so there's a first and a second. Is there any discussion on this?
Yes, I have a discussion.
Okay, Ms. Conover?
Why did we take a vote for it to be for them to be not be hybrid? What is it that we're really asking for? I'm not clear. I know we had a discussion, but what specifically are we asking that the parents have the option of sending their kids to LCTI if they want to?
Actually, what my motion does, Ms. Conover, is actually is basically ask the administration to look at what that would mean. So I'm not directing them to say that I want to see them do it. I'm asking them to reevaluate what the logistics of that might be.
So I second the motion. Thank you for explaining to me.
Sure. It's already seconded.
Oh, who seconded? You?
Mr. Thiel seconded it. We're just doing discussion now.
Oh, okay. Okay, I have clarity. Thank you.
Yeah, I was struggling with how to word it all night long. So thank you for asking that question, because being able to explain what I was trying to say worked out well. So thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Is there any other discussion? Because it's a new motion underneath. Oh, go ahead, Ms. Johnson-Watts.
My question is, with that reevaluation, are we then going to have a chance to review it before, as a recommendation is made?
That would be my hope.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of things that are happening right now are happening in a rollout that's going to be challenged by the timing of our meetings. And so I'm not sure where do we insert our ability to approve any recommendation that is made. Does this, because what's going to happen is we're going to be looking at the committee of the whole meetings. Do you understand what I'm saying? Are we looking at a timeline for this to have been completed so that we are voting on this? What is it that we're looking to do in terms of the implementation or execution of anything that comes from this reevaluation? I just want us to be clear so that we're not just putting something out there and then we're wondering where it goes.
Sure. My intention is actually to do with this motion is to create a dialogue that would answer those questions. I totally respect your response to me, because as a new board member, I sometimes don't remember always the structure of how things go. So I do believe that we should, as a board collectively, we should have a presentation and the ability to discuss and vote on it. So Madam President, Mr. Freund, any guidance that you can offer?
So we could have a special board meeting like we've done in the past immediately following committee of the whole, which would be on the 10th, which is 3 days after school would start for us. So if we would vote, if the administration would come back with a recommendation whether to allow or not allow, and we take a vote on it, it would mean that then potentially the 14th, so 4 days after they would have started school, hybrid, they could potentially go into LCTI. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if the board has a sense that it wants to vote on this, that a special meeting would be necessary. However, I'm not certain that from a legal point of view that if the decision is from the administration to allow attendance, that it would necessarily even require a board vote. But certainly the board, if the board feels it wants to vote on it, certainly it should.
Thank you.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because there's a lot of logistics that are involved, and I don't know if it's one of those scenarios where, how can I put it? I don't know if it's one of those scenarios where we are putting ourselves in a position where we almost are in that conversation about the logistics. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I'm being very mindful and very, very clear about, you're saying that the board doesn't need to vote on it. Okay, so well, what do we do? Do things happen and then we
I take the sense of your motion is that you would like to direct the administration to reconsider the feasibility of having virtual students attend VOTEC physically. And they can, if you want to embellish that by saying, get back to us with your report in a week or something like that, or whatever you want, and then you can decide from that point whether you whether you need to reconvene to take any action.
Can I?
Go ahead, Ms. Conover.
All right. So, Nancy, you made the motion and I seconded, right?
So
maybe
Mr. Thiel seconded it.
Okay, all right. That's all right. He started. Okay. So here's the thing. Does there need to be a motion? Because I remember there was someone who spoke out today who said that they wanted their kid to go LCTI, right? Did we hear that earlier?
Yes.
Yes.
I also heard somebody say that and I'm only saying this because I have to say this to provide clarity on what I'm getting ready to say, right? I also heard that they asked if they could transport their own child to LCTI would they be able to do so? And they were told no. Do we have to go through a whole motion and to go back and reconsider the whole thing to actually have conversation with the parent to make accommodations for that parent if their child decided that they wanted to go to LCTI using the hybrid model? Can we make accommodations for how does that work, Mr. Parker? How would that work? Because what I'm saying is like we already set for September for opening the school. LCTI already gave us the tools, so that means the district and LCTI were in communication with each other, and there's a plan in place. This is a parent that wants something different for their child. What can we do, or what does that look like, Mr. Parker?
So I think that's a question. The question becomes what I guess where the line is drawn in terms of all students virtual, what that truly means, and whether we as a district are all students virtual. If we move the line back to say LCTI students now have the option of being virtual or in person. And again, like I said about athletics, no bad options. You just have to make the best option with the tools that you have available. Then you can make the decision that LCTI parents now have the option to attend in person or be virtual. Then the district would have to go back and work with LCTI to manage the logistics in terms of staffing, to ensure that they have the staffing in place to address whatever the influx of kids are that would want to be in person. I would probably push back over allowing one parent the option and not all parents the option. I think there are some issues that the district would face if it's not, if we're going to allow a parent to do it, I think we need to allow all parents to do it. So then it's managing the transportation, it's managing, LCTI, whether they have or what they need to do in terms of staffing to support the students that would then be enrolled in the class. And then I think it's also managing whether it's just LCTI that students will have the opportunity to attend full day or whatever, 2 days a week or wherever it is, or what that means also for students that are dual enrollment. As of now, our L-Tri-C has identified that they're dual enrollment online. We do have students that dual enroll with Penn State, Lehigh Valley. We've been working with them on ensuring that they can do that virtual as well. So if you give that option to L-Tri-C, I think you've got to give that option to the students there as well. And then what I would, again, kind of my job is to give you both sides of it, and we make the decision as best we can. I think we begin walking the path of what does virtual look like and who gets virtual. And for our students that are most in need in ASD, should we then be creating spaces and opportunities for them to have in-person instruction as well? Because if we're going to support in-person instruction for students that are enrolled at LCTI, I think we should be supporting in-person instruction for students that are enrolled in ASD.
So I want to ask you this question too. How do we do, because we closed abruptly in March because of COVID, and then we didn't know if we were going to go back or not, and then we got the word that we weren't going back. So we had LCTI students in session. How did we manage? Did they make it through that period of time when we were virtual?
Say that one more time.
Did they make it through? How did they manage? What did we do from March until June with LCTI? How did we manage? Did the kids succeed? Was there struggles?
I have nothing has come to my desk in terms of students having abject struggles. I would defer to one of the principals if they were online in terms of whether there was something that they have specific knowledge of in terms of struggles. But to my knowledge, students were successful.
Right. I didn't get any emails stating that there were issues, and I didn't hear anybody say that their kid wasn't getting. Not to take away from what I'm not minimizing what Shannon said. Now I'm just saying. So I'm just wondering if there were any issues until now, because we're getting ready to go back into session. We haven't heard anything that said that the parents were against virtual at LCTI. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And again, for me, I'll say it again. It's going to be really difficult to defend supporting in-person LCTI while we have students that have disabilities that are not in school.
Well, thank you for explaining that to me. I guess we could take a vote.
Since this is a motion, something new under new business, if there's anyone from the public that wants to comment on it, now would be the time to raise your hand. Mr. Thiel, you raised your hand.
Could you repeat the motion as it is presented, please?
Sure, I'm taking this, hope I got it right, to reevaluate the logistics of offering our Allentown School District LCTI enrolled students the option of attending the campus for hybrid education. Is that correct? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I didn't see anybody from the public putting their hand up. So since there's no other discussion from the board, if you can please call the roll.
Ms. Wilt,
Yes.
Ms. Vega,
Yes.
Ms. Brace,
No.
Ms. Conover,
No.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson Watts,
Yes.
Ms. Matheson,
No.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Thiel,
Yes.
6-3 passes.
Okay. Is there any other new business to come before the board? Mr. Thiel, is your hand still up from last time?
It is.
Okay.
And it's not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seeing and hearing no other new business, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I so move we adjourn.
Second. Ms. Johnson Watts, seconded by, I'll give it
Everybody.
to you, Conover. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, have a great night, everybody. Thank you.
You too.
Night,
Bye-bye.
folks.